rest of the season. I was like, this show is amazing.
That's how Amazon Prime is too, because are you into comics? Wait, should we start are we on?
Yeah, I'm going to edit around. I mean, this is all going to be included into it, but we should do a formal intro.
Let's do an intro.
They don't know who I am.
That's right.
We're just talking for so long.
They've heard you, probably not heard you. They've felt you, but they don't know you're. And we've spoken about you on the podcast,
You've referenced.
Yeah. So finally, they'll get to know. All right. I guess I'll do a formal intro.
Yeah,
and this could be it. Hey guys, welcome to another episode. This is a very special episode of The Last Zebra. As always, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share. And today's guest is the man behind the camera, the genius behind the lighting, the executive producer, the videographer, the editor. He does everything. I just show up and do my part. I just come sit down and get the guests. The one and only.
That's actually a huge part of it because I don't know the medical people that you know.
That's true. The one and only Matthew Koesy.
Episode 25.
Glad we're 25. Here. Yeah, welcome to the show.
I've been telling everybody about this podcast. I tell my family members, I tell friends, and they're all asking how many episodes y'all done, because there was like one other small podcast that I did with a friend for a while, but we couldn't meet up the way we can meet up now because we had regular jobs, and what we talked about was we didn't really have like a very strong concept for the podcast. Right. So we only ever recorded like 4 things and released them on SoundCloud. But when I tell them that we're up in the double digits now, we're up in the mid 20s, they're very impressed by it.
Yeah, this has been a really, really cool, fun ride. Really, my favorite part thus far is not only what we're learning from the guests, is like how much we're learning too. Like you and I, like our process has changed a good bit. Like we've made some adjustments here and there.
First big adjustment was when we had the lavalier microphones for episode 1, because the microphones, we didn't know those Moani. Yeah, the Moani mics, couldn't run them 2 at a time, which we didn't know until the day. There was really nothing. That's something that's not labeled on a box. You know, that's something that should be clearly
addressed.
Yeah, it should be like solo use only, just a single person. You can't record.
That's right.
You can't hook up more than 2. That's crazy. That's like if you had a video game console and it had multiple plugs for controllers, but you could only like play one at a time.
It's cold-blooded what they did.
Yeah.
And it really was like really annoying, because then the mics end up being that the mics from that video, which was Kachi Eke's video, our very first episode.
Episode number 1.
Yeah, those were prop mics essentially. Those mics had no actual function other than just to look like we were talking into microphones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then after that episode, we sat down and we had like 3 weeks before we recorded the next episode. Mm-hmm. So,
because we wanted to get these Shure mics, which on your recommendation, which end up being a game changer. And of course, getting I don't know what you call that. What do you call that?
Our sound, I just call it the soundboard.
Yeah, we got
we got the Rode Procaster 2. Rodecaster Pro 2.
Yeah. So we got that and connected it, and we have a hidden episode of this podcast.
Yes, we do. The reason it may never see the light of day is because there's more audio editing to do after each episode. That's one of the things I've learned getting into the 20th episode, and so is that listening to other podcasts there's certain editing, it's not just the switching back and forth from camera 1 to camera 2. It's the audio has to be improved as well. I need to remove certain sounds, like if maybe someone bumped the microphone, or if they were taking a deep breath, or they were just like exhaling, or if maybe if they accidentally popped too much with a letter, then I need to go through and fix those up to the best of my ability and make the audio as loud as possible without it. So that way, when you listen back to it in a car or something like that, if I'm listening to you, I don't want to have to turn up all the way because your mix is too low, and if mine's too high, you're turning it back down. It needs to all sound the same.
And just for clarity, I just, the way I assume your process is, because I actually don't see like your part of the editing part of that. I assume each video takes you about 2 hours to do your thing minimum, because I'm assuming you're listening and then you hear the things. Because even when we're filming, there are times when you're like, hey, hint at maybe adjust your mic, or they're like subtle things that you're trying to account for while we're actually doing the podcast. The editing process, what is that like? Especially because not, there are things that you're figuring out on the fly. What's that like?
So editing process is, if you ever saw my apartment, which you've never been over to my apartment.
Right.
There's certain parts of my apartment that are like, it seems like it's pretty organized with this, but then you go into another room and it's chaos. But one of the things that is organized is the way I keep like the hard drives and the way I keep our file structure for each episode. And like, I put what day we filmed it. I put what episode number I put that it's, and I make sure that it's, the folder says that it's audio and video, just for some reason. If it wasn't, if we only did like an audio recording for an episode, then the files are broken down in there. I'd make sure that everything is offloaded to their respective folders, and then everything goes into a synchronizing program. So it all like
matches.
It all matches up, runs very quickly. I then export that. There's a little export file from there called an XML, which is basically just for like streamlining editing. And I send that to Premiere Pro, which is my editing software. I open up the XML in there. It has all the stuff laid out. It's got camera 1, camera 2, and then it's got all the audio. It's got the audio that's been synced into the cameras, plus the audio from here, like the stereo mix, and then the individual microphones. So then, but after that's done, I cut off the fat at the beginning and the end when there's that period of time when I'm pressing stop record on either the microphones, like on the mixer, or on the cameras. So I get rid of all that. So there's literally a start and a stop, and it's perfectly in point. I add the color to camera 1 and camera 2 because it's raw files.
Right.
But all of that has been, I've already figured out what is the best color for this episode, or what is our like standardized color for each camera. And it's very simple. And then I create a multi-layer, or a multi-camera sync, like a sequence. And so when I'm watching it, all I have to do is I'm listening to it, I'm watching you, and I've got the audio files there. So I know who's about to talk, whether it's your guest or if you're about to say like, oh, if you're about to interject with something, I know who to cut back to.
Right.
So I like double speed through the thing and through the sequence, and I'm hitting 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. And then, but most recently with adding the extra audio thing on there, I'm actually doing the audio basically first, because I want to have time to remove little clicks and pops and all that stuff. So I mastered the audio first, and then I'm doing the video now. And the video is second nature. The audio stuff is becoming a lot easier. I'm starting to go through and learn how to delete the stuff I want to get rid of and boost the other things I need to. And it's becoming second nature. And then it's just add the intro, outro, the titles, make sure that those are correct. And then I think we've got a nice like thumbnail design. I think it's gonna improve even more as we go along. And about the only change I can think of is that it'd be great to have, I think we're working on like a theme music for the show.
Yeah.
But I'm not a musician. We need we're going to get somebody good to do that. We're going to get someone proper.
I have a couple things in the works. We spoke about having the strip, the EKG beep, beep, somehow being incorporated into the theme music. I feel like that would be really, really cool. So I think that has been the biggest challenge to kind of get it together. But once we get that, I'm excited for that too. What do you think? What has been, if you could name, let's say, 3 episodes that stand out to you, which ones do you feel have been the ones that you were just like, that was a really, really cool episode?
Let's see.
Of course, no. Respectfully to all the rest of them that didn't make the cut.
I mean, this is my personal choice.
Yeah, of course.
Episode 2, because there was a huge leap in quality there. That was Dr. Gupta.
That was
I
Dr.
believe.
Gupta.
And even then we didn't have everything fully, like there's a huge shadow on each of y'all's faces because we didn't have a fill light set up. I think Vivian's episode was really good.
Yeah.
We talked about like any episode that talks about running in some way, like because a bunch of people are doing running, and who was our guest that she just like blew me away at one point. She was like, oh yeah, I just did like 10 miles in 90 minutes. I just did it as a break from my kids. I was like, Mama needs a break. Mama's going to go for a run. That wasn't Bacon. That was,
was that Allison?
I believe so. Kazanave.
Yeah.
I was just like,
She
I was like,
is
damn.
a beast. We need to give her a shout out because she's doing a lot of really cool stuff now.
Oh yeah.
She started her own like essentially a nutrition consultant business since we last spoke.
Really?
Yeah, nutrition consultant business. She's doing fantastic work. I just saw that she just posted today about some of her clients and the work that she's doing with them. And we spoke about that on the podcast, like what would she want to do next? And she brought that up. So it's really cool to see that in fruition.
She'll need to come back and do another episode, and it can just be a big promotion piece for her for new business.
Absolutely. Her and I spoke because obviously we work at the same place. Her and I spoke about having her, through her experience, she has access to a lot of different kinds of people, especially in medicine. Mm-hmm. And we spoke about having her be a guest host and interview some like patients to get patient perspectives of medicine, which I think would be a really cool, because we don't often think about the patients, of course, but like when you say medicine, it's focused a lot on the professionals as well.
Yeah.
But on this show, since we're talking about the stories of the people in medicine, the patients are also people in medicine. So I feel like that would be a really cool perspective to gain. So her and I need to sit down and see what, like, she has someone in mind that she had messaged to me. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that shapes out. But when that comes about, we'll see. And then the other thing is,
a lot more of my time is like spent in this studio, and I'm enjoying it.
That's dope.
Like it's very good, and it's been something to want to stay busy, to stay creative, and just to, you know, I don't know. It's been just something that's been keeping me centered in a way.
You and I were just talking about this earlier, because how we met at my work, Terrebonne. You were hired out to do a gig for them.
Yes.
And podcast came up through casual conversation, and we're just like, yo, let's meet up and get it done. And
yeah, full video shoot with actual doctors, no actors.
Yeah.
And then so that's the case of like, we're just running with the hospitals are already well lit places. Mm-hmm. The only difficult thing about shooting in hospitals is actually trying to like add a bit of contrast, like try to add some shadows and make it more cinematic.
Right.
But this type of video shoot was more like, it was such a smaller scale thing, where it's like, it's meant to be like a quick put together, like let's show off the place and get the best looking people.
Right.
And just the people. Yeah. Everyone that was in the video was good looking. But also trying to like not promote maybe certain brands or certain things that are in there, and obviously not run a real MRI or do something crazy like that with like all the cameras and everything around.
Equipment,
yeah, that would have been really bad.
Yeah. So that's how we met.
Yeah.
And it wasn't shortly after that we did that first episode.
Yeah.
And then we've kind of been rolling.
It might have been 1 or 2 weeks after we told it.
We met that weekend after. Let's say it was a Tuesday. I think we met that weekend.
Yeah.
And you saw this space, and then the rest is history.
Really no time to wait, honestly, when you want to get something started, because the first episode's always going to be the roughest. You have to try to get pieces together and see what works. And
you just got to do it.
Yeah, you just got to do it.
And when we met, you and I, and we were just kind of talking about this, because I wanted to do 2 separate podcasts. I wanted to do one that was focused on medicine, which is The Last Zebra. And then I wanted to do another one that was kind of the same format, interview style per se, where interview style podcast, but interviewing friends that are outside of medicine. The more I've done these episodes, I think I want to just make The Last Zebra be that. So, medicine centric, but occasionally we'll have people that are not in medicine, but still have very interesting stories. Because the theme of the podcast is basically learning about the people behind their titles, behind their jobs, behind their professions. So
yeah, it's kind of intimidating when someone has IV, MBA, MD, all the titles.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a little less intimidating just to call them doctor.
That's true. That's a great point. So yeah, I think we might expand, thinking about, finding some really, really cool people in general.
Yeah.
We'll certainly focus a lot more on medical folks, but some of these episodes will become, because I have friends that are principals, in public, in the public education system. I feel like they have a really cool story to tell. I have friends that are, in different aspects of different shades of life and professions that have tremendous stories that would add value.
Well, of all the people that you've been interviewing, they're going to recommend to other people that aren't necessarily like medically trained.
Yeah.
And they're going to want to be on here to talk about something.
Yeah.
Because even if they don't have medical training, I mean, you can talk about how medicine or how like certain health things have been impacting your life, or just even family members that have had, debilitating diseases or close calls.
Yeah.
There's everything you can talk about here.
Let's talk about your background.
How far are we going back?
Start from the beginning. Where are you from? And how did we get here, other than the part that we just said?
So I am originally from North Little Rock, Arkansas. I went to school there. The school that I went to was literally like 2 minutes away from my house. So I was habitually late. There were so many days when my dad was just driving me, and we were it was basically like a tuck and roll situation. Just open the door and I'd just like dive out, and I'd run down the hallways to get to my locker. That was in more like the middle school, like 7th and 8th grade when we had lockers. When it was the younger grades, it just was get in there like 2 minutes before the bell rang at 8 o'clock just to get into my classroom. I went to the same elementary school all the way up until 8th grade. So I was lucky for that. My parents have always lived in the same house. So I've always known
even
that.
Now?
Yeah, even now.
Wow.
So I've always known that to be home. There's a bunch of people that can't say the same thing.
Right,
so I know I'm very lucky in that regard. Then I went to an all boys Catholic high school in Little Rock, which is, you would think that a high school with no girls it'd be like a bummer, but really it's just guys getting to be guys for 7 hours a day.
Yeah.
And also that school, they only recently got air conditioning in all the classrooms. They were if the world wasn't getting hotter, it's not a bad way to have a school is like no air conditioning. It's just like, because everyone's suffering in a uniform way. So, and also we had uniforms. So
I went to a all boys boarding school, and to be fair, we were high up in the mountains in Jamaica, so it was a lot cooler and so we didn't necessarily. I think the only place that had central air or AC was the computer lab.
Same at our school. That's the only thing that really, and those were like big industrial fans. It was like connected to the wall, so it like fed in from outside. It was just like, or it was just, I think it was just to suck the hot air out. Yeah.
So I can relate to that, especially like the whole, we had in the higher grades, because there's an all girls school not too far from us.
Same.
All girl boarding school not too far from us.
Yeah.
So then the higher grades would have like shared classes.
Yeah.
In America, I guess it would be grades 11 and 12. Those two, we called it upper and lower six. So 11 being lower six and 12 being upper six. Those two classes had shared classes with the same grades.
Is that a specific like Jamaican grade, like, or is that feels kind of like a British?
It is British.
Okay,
it's 100% British. We have the same. It's the British education system. Jamaica formerly was a British colony up until the 1960s.
Good God, what wasn't?
That's fair. What wasn't? What was it? You could probably throw a stone on a map and you'd land on a former British colony.
I really wish we were actually metric. In like after the number of people that don't know how many feet are in a mile, and it's like we do everything else in tens. Our money's in tens. Why
not?
Why not?
Other than just to be difficult.
I mean, baking and cooking are just a wild thing. With the number of ounces that goes into a cup and cups in a pint into a quart, it's ridiculous.
It's madness. Yards is the wildest. Yards. What else? What else is it? The mile.
Yeah, mile is easily the weirdest number.
And it's all, I think, the smallest unit of the non-metric system. What is the name of that? What's the non-metric? Is that because the imperial system is the metric system?
We're imperial.
Imperial system. Because I think the smallest unit is the cubit hand, is it not? Like,
maybe.
I think so. That like the hand is how you measure like 1 cubit hand is like a certain amount of yards, et cetera, et cetera. I might be wrong.
I think they've phased out almost.
Yeah, because no one has ever said a cubit hand anymore.
No, I've never heard of it.
And it's definitely, I haven't heard that in a while. The metric system is by far It just makes so much more sense.
I remember something from grade school where they said that they wanted to originally measure, they wanted to call it hands, but they said, well, hands are different sizes, so we're going to call it foot. And I was like, wait, what? That makes even less sense.
What is that? If that's real, that was whoever said that sentence.
I think, man, I feel like that, and this was something that was shown in a classroom setting. I remember that quote so vividly because it made no sense at all.
Well, how would you? Yeah,
I can't make that up. I remember it so distinctly.
That's true because it's feet. How many feet make up a yard? How many yards make up whatever else? And you just go from there.
Yeah, I know people. I know people with small feet, big feet. Like, that's the most. It's like the heart. It's like saying it's like measuring by heads.
There's
like everybody's head is different. They measured it by a body part. Like, just completely. It makes no sense.
Zero sense. Or because you could choose any body. There's no body part that you could say is standardized across the board. So it just literally makes no sense.
Yeah.
So after high school, where'd you go? Obviously college, but.
So after high school, I knew I wanted to get out of Arkansas and I wanted to travel. I wanted to get into some other state and just be in a different area. I looked at schools in like Kansas and Texas. I still wanted to be close enough, but UL Lafayette really sort of got a hold of me. Like when I went down there, I took the tour with everybody else and I was impressed by it. But at a certain point, I just broke off on my own and I was like, I'll just go wander around the campus if they can't, handle like a student just walking around on his own. So I stumbled into the computer science building because originally I wanted to go to school for video game design and computer science. So I walked into not a classroom, I walked into a random office and I basically just started talking to a couple of professors and I was like, I'm thinking of coming here next year. I just wanted to look around and see the place. And they just gave me a whole tour of the building of where I would be spending most of my time.
Right.
And then, so at a certain point I just said, that's my school. That's my choice. A bunch of people, when they heard it, they were like, you're going to LSU. I'm like, no.
University of Louisiana.
If they had said LSU, if it had been Louisiana State University, they would have said LSU. But they clearly said UL Lafayette. It's a totally different school. Certain things I didn't know when I was first going there is that it had a reputation as a bit of a... Some people warned about being a party school. That's not really... It's more of how much you participate in the party. I'd rather it be there and then not, instead of it being like... If it was some sort of dry campus or something like that, or if it was like... I think if the college had more of a reputation of not being fun or not really having like people meeting each other, that'd be more of a disappointment.
Right.
But you can still go to class. You can still study. So I went down there and first 2 years did computer science, but I realized this computer language is not for me. It's something I'd like to pick up now and maybe like touch on again, just to have another little hobby to do. But film was where I transitioned into because I took like a basic film class in school. There was a lot to talk about. There was a lot of stuff that interested me in that. I just didn't think it was possible down here. I thought industry wise it was either Los Angeles, New York. And in some ways still is. Plus Atlanta. Atlanta's very popular.
Yeah. And New Orleans has a very strong film. Well, I don't know if Louisiana is too broad, but certainly New Orleans has a very strong film presence.
Most things that are going to be made in most things that are going to be made in Louisiana, they'd probably pull crew from New Orleans. Either that or there's a whole film studio in Baton Rouge called Celtic Studio. I've been there a few times. There's been some shows that have filmed there, Disney shows. Shreveport, I've worked in Shreveport before, but Shreveport is also pretty close to Dallas. So if Shreveport needs people, they might just pull people from Dallas. However, with movies that come to Louisiana, there's the tax incentive of like, if you hire local people, then we give you a certain like a tax write-off. Now, that's good for like local movies that want to like be able to make some of the money back on the budget. So they've spent like this much and they're likely to get this percentage back.
Right.
Currently, I think there's supposed to be like Ryan Coogler has a movie here in New Orleans, but more or less has everybody from Los Angeles, which is disappointing because there's no one really out there that's more talented than they're equal in my mind.
So that preference doesn't actually yield to a higher quality is what you're saying. Like not hiring locally doesn't mean you're hiring less talent or anything like that. Everybody, at least the people here, are of equal merit.
Oh, absolutely. And they've probably had it a little bit more difficult in certain ways because New Orleans is rough conditions in the summer, and a lot of these people have cut their teeth filming in summertime, filming in hot weather, stormy weather.
Right.
I mean, Los Angeles is pretty dry. The earthquakes, it's got its own challenges to filming, but New Orleans people are just a different breed. And the people that pursue this stuff down here, but they're built different.
For those that don't know, what exactly is your role in a film? Like what is your title then if in a film?
I've worked a bunch of different positions in films, whether it's been for the full run of show, like starting day to the end of it. But when the main thing that I try to focus on when I can get the work is assistant camera, specifically first AC or second AC. First AC is in charge of pulling focus and keeping the image sharp, changing batteries, changes lenses, moving the camera around, working with the camera operator to put the camera onto certain rigs or onto certain machines, tripods, Steadicam. You're working with all those things, and you have your hands on. You're busy most of the day as the first AC. There's not really much time there's a little bit of time to relax, but there's not really time to walk away. It's very hands-on. You're one of the main technicians of the camera.
So as long as the camera is on, you're also on, essentially.
Basically. And then when you're filming, the camera's moving and the actors are moving, and you have to pull focus. So you're constantly watching the footage and you're seeing how the shots play out. And the most recent movie I worked on from full run of show was a Baton Rouge indie feature called Beware the Box Folk. Mm-hmm. We were such a tight-knit crew that even though I'm the AC, I get to talk to the directors all the time, and it's a collaborative thing. So I was telling them that at certain points, I was like, I shouldn't actually pull focus here. You should it should be out of focus. And then this character walks in. I think you should try this because it would look cool. And they're like, we'll do it. We'll do it once. And if it looked good, they kept it. And if they wanted an option, they'd say, pull focus on this one or do something else. Like they'd give me a specific instruction. So very cool to work with people my own age, and we get to collaborate on something.
Yeah. I saw something. I thought about you yesterday. So the new trailer for The Joker came out. Do you know what I'm about to ask you? Have you seen it?
Yeah, I have seen it, but what's the question?
There is a scene where he's in jail and he's standing, the Joker played by Joaquin Phoenix.
Mm-hmm. So is the one where she draws on the...
Yeah, and because the line, it stood out to me because I was like, I consider myself a cinephile. I love watching movies. The subtleties, the camera work.
Oh yeah.
I love all that stuff. I was just telling my friends that are here with us today for the summer. I was just telling them that a couple things. I don't think I could be an actor because I couldn't do the acting in front of other people watching me act. Like I could fake an accent if it's just me and you talking. Yeah. And I'm not saying that the accent would even be good, let alone. But if a lot of people are there watching me, oh my goodness, you need 1,000 takes. But that being said, I adore the art of making. I love the art of making movies, the art of film. And
when you have a good director or someone who can get you inspired to be in something, you can be a non-actor and still give a really great performance if you know what you're doing. Like if you're not thinking so much about the camera and how is the audience gonna look at this? If you're literally not going into machine mode, but if you're going into, I'm just going to obey the director and I'm just going to try to not be myself for a minute or be myself. Like if the character's written similar to you, or if he just says, be natural.
Yeah.
And you do it and you get to but when you get to work with other actors who are really collaborative and they bounce off of you, anybody can really do acting. The only thing that I would say for non-actors is if a movie or something books you and let's say they're not, paying a huge amount or whatever. Mm-hmm. If you're a non-actor on the day, you might be tempted. Like if something happens with, your car or you just don't feel good, you might say, I won't go out because it's not really your passion. But people who want to do that stuff, that want to act, they're going to do everything they can. They're going to move mountains to be there on time and to perform their part. Cause anything, they're all under the mindset of no small parts. Like you can do any small thing and it could be some sort of breakthrough moment for you. Right. It could get you seen by somebody, or it can just be just be something. I mean, especially now in the age of the internet, you could become a meme.
Right.
Like your character could
go
have,
viral, yeah.
you can go viral, and everyone you have a bit of fame just from a small a line that you delivered.
So for that scene from that trailer,
Yeah.
where Harley Quinn, played by Lady Gaga, who it turns out is a phenomenal actress.
Yeah. You've seen A Star Is Born?
I haven't seen it. I've only seen I haven't seen it in completion, in totality. Who would have thought? But she's a fantastic actress. So she's playing Harley Quinn, and she draws the smile on the glass.
Yeah.
And Joaquin's character, the Joker, smiles. And
But he moves his whole head into the frame.
yeah, and the focus shifts. The entire time it's a play on focus. The initial focus at the beginning of this particular scene is on him. And so it's him, the glass, and her hand.
Right.
And the focus shifts from him. And when she says, "I want to see the real you," she draws a smile on the glass with red pink, and he smiles into it, and the focus shifts in such a way that it looks like his Joker makeup.
Yeah.
Man, I was just like, I thought about you immediately. I was like, this is brilliant. It's one of my this came out yesterday, and it's already top 5, top 10, one of my favorite. Such
a simple shot. I mean, in a way, it doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles. It just has, I imagine, a good number of takes where they have to
time it.
They have to time it correctly. He has to hit his mark. There's rehearsals. They never just put the camera there and they just go, okay, try it. And then, she'll be all the way up here and he'll be here, because they have to be blocked in a certain way just for the camera to work.
Right.
You can't imagine how much you think that you're looking through a window and your eye line is correct, but it's not at all correct. And you have to see it on a monitor and go oh, I need to duck down a certain amount, or I need to really be on my tippy toes. I need to put myself in a certain position. So that's one thing about actors, is that they understand that it's certain things might be awkward for someone to be hey, stand over here. Because there was a little bit of directing I had to do with you for for the shots, where I was y'all are walking somehow three people side by side, and there's not one person walking more in front, or even one person turning around and walking backwards during a conversation. So it's but it's just for the shot. There has to be some uniformity and some composition to it.
What's the difference between, you mentioned, was it AC? A first AC and a second AC. What's the difference is it one is the primary and the other one is more of an assistant kind of thing?
No, I mean, they're both assistants to the camera operator and the director of photography. But the second AC is also responsible for batteries, cart organization. Everything plays off of your carts, these big industrial, these metal carts. They're also the one that does the slating. So if you've ever watched BTS footage and they're scene 1, take 1, and they mark, they're always in front of the camera that way.
Gotcha.
They have to be in front of the camera, but they also have to be out of the way. They have to be in there just to mark it real quick.
Right.
And they're also they're in charge with battery swapping, and the lens swapping is not just a one-man operation. The first AC stands at the camera. The second AC, when they call for a new lens, if they say, give me the wider lens, give me the 24 millimeter lens, second AC goes over, opens the case, grabs the lens, holds it correctly, closes the case, locks it, brings the lens over to the first AC, who's taking the lens that's currently on the camera off the camera. There's a special handoff to make sure that neither lens gets dropped. You have to communicate and say, this is yours. I've got this. This is mine. We're good. And then they do that.
Because these are very expensive.
These are insanely expensive lenses.
Right.
The lenses you have in your glasses, I mean, those things are already they'll charge you however much to get reframed.
Yeah.
But for these very precise NASA lenses, basically, it's crazy how much this glass, just how much it costs.
Right.
Because it's not just about how sharp, and it's not about resolution, because resolution is determined in the camera. It's about how precise of an instrument it is, how smooth it is when you're pulling focus from something far away to something close. There's certain things where it's a lesser made lens might shake, and there's this weird thing that happens with the lens, and it messes up the stability of the picture. A lot of this stuff is mitigated in editing as well. There's really not much that you can't fix
in
editing,
but it certainly makes it easier.
certainly makes it easier. Plus, they really shouldn't. A movie shouldn't stay in post production forever, just fixing tiny things that could have been done on the day.
Would you ever want to do like go up the film production ladder? Like, would you ever want to direct? I guess that's the highest, either direct or produce. But I imagine.
And I don't think I would ever want to like jump outside of camera.
Really?
So yeah, I like camera. I love camera, and I've more or less like focused on camera. I like doing editing as well, but I think a good director is made from someone who, I think the best directors really come from like people who know how to edit, because they know how much of a shot that they need to put something together. So they understand how to kill certain shots, or they know how much is going to be left on the cutting room floor. And directors of photography, they're really good about, I just want to like shoot the best looking shots. And so I would love to be a director of photography at a certain point, but it's not at a certain, when you get to like a DP level, you're probably going to be less hands-on with the camera, and you'll be more talking with like the gaffers and the grips about how to light the scene, and like creating all these gigantic diagrams or these setups that could be, you never know how much these things are until you've seen like behind the scenes, or you've been on a union shoot, or just a big budget shoot in general. And you see how much goes into lighting something, especially if it's outside. Because if the lighting looks good outside and it's a very bright day, they didn't just do something on the camera. There's a million things happening with there's like diffusion sheets or flags, or just there's ways to cutting light and softening light.
You mentioned union shoot. What is that?
When I say union, I mean it's a type of production that has a large enough budget that they're going to hire. Most film workers work in unions. So like Local 600 is for camera, 478 is for grip, electric, and sound, and a bunch of other departments as well. There's basically everything is in 478. But these are people that pay union benefit. These are like people that work films, but they're not just getting paid the money that's, at the end of each week, because a movie might pay, let's say $2,000 a week for 5 days of work, roughly 60 to 65 hours of work. But by the end of the movie, what else are you coming away with?
Right.
Because you're just a film worker. You're not making stuff on the back end when the movie becomes certainly successful.
Right.
But a union contract is about setting aside money to pay for medical, dental, just health benefits in general, retirement fund, so that film workers aren't just gig workers. They're not just freelancers. They're in the industry. If this is the thing that they do the most, because film is so weird. It's a very specialized thing that does not, I don't believe, translates over to many other areas.
Right. It's not 9 to 5. It has no.
It's like it's 9 to 9 or 7 to 7. It's normally like 12-hour shifts.
Yeah. Not unlike medicine, because many professions in medicine are 12-hour shifts, 7 to 7, 6 to 6. I think respiratory therapists, at least where I work, they do 6 to 6. That's
instead, like a Steadicam operator is a very specialized person. Like and they also are bringing in their equipment. They're bringing in their Steadicam, which they own and operate, and they rent to the production. And it's very specialized equipment. It's not going to be used for anything else other than filmmaking. It has no real value outside of what it provides for a filmmaker. Like what as it is for a filmmaking tool, it has no real value outside of how it can enhance a film or how it can help a director get his vision.
Right. When at the end of the movie, when they put up all the people that contributed to making that movie happen, and it feels like such a long and extended list.
Yeah. And they're massive lists.
It's just a huge list, and whenever that comes up, and I'm watching a movie and it's the end and the credits roll, I am more appreciative of that, the cost it takes to make the movie, right? So like when you hear there are movies, however many $1 million, millions of dollars, and then you see the credits, you're like, oh my goodness, like who wasn't in this film? And it like the entire crew could be north of what, 500 people more?
More than that.
Wow.
Because if you go far enough down, they'll start breaking it into like different. If a movie filmed in different cities, like if it's a big Marvel movie and they shot in, let's say Berlin, it's like they probably flew a few people out there, but they also Berlin. There's no reason that they shouldn't hire some local Berlin crew for small things, especially for like locations or something like that.
What do you think is the most, or what are the things that are most misunderstood about making a film from your perspective?
That's a really good question. Why it's important to be quiet on a set. Everyone has a cell phone these days. They have to communicate with their families or whatever. But also when the movies, there's a certain sanctity that when the movie is like shooting, like when actors are talking, there really is no other, there shouldn't be, I don't feel like my hearing is like anything special. I'm not Daredevil, like, you know, or I'm not Wolverine, or I don't have superhuman hearing, but sometimes when I'm just like pulling focus and I'm there, I'm like, I can just hear people that aren't the actors. And I'm just like, I'm like, it's not my job to call them out, because I'm just there pulling focus. I'm the camera department. It's just, but it's a weird disrespectful thing to talk during a movie or during filming about something that is not related to the movie at all. Because if I can hear the conversation, someone else should be able to hear. Assistant director will hear it. They'll be mad. And sometimes it could disrupt a take. You don't want to take the actors out of their space. You don't want to, you don't like, there's all this time we've spent. There's all the lighting. There's all the audio. There's all this stuff. There's a million things. There's the hair and makeup. If it's a period piece or something like that, or if they need a specific look, or if they're like bloody and injured, that all that stuff is like, it has to be, you have to have respect for that and the time that's already been put into this. Yeah.
What do you do? Not what would you, what do you do? What are your
Oh, you know what? Actually, I have one other thing.
Tell me.
Movies are not content.
Oh.
At least there's a difference between, you know, a film where it's really trying to say something versus something that maybe you just want to put on in the background, but it shouldn't all fall under content these days. These things are made, these movies are they're being built to last. They're being built to hopefully say something in 40 years. There's a reason that like The Godfather can come back after it's been over 50 years since it originally released. 1972.
Yeah.
How it can come back in theaters and people will go and see it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying millions of people will go and see it because it costs money to keep a movie in theaters.
Right.
There's all that distribution, all the distribution fees and everything like that. But there's a reason that like a movie like that might still draw in people to go and see it who've maybe never seen it and have heard about it, or they're big diehard fans of it. That's why a Star Wars movie can still come back to theaters. Like I saw Empire Strikes Back on 40th anniversary, and it's like we paid money to go and see it. We bought snacks, we did everything but we got to relax and sit down in the theater and watch it on the big screen. And the sound is really what's the main thing.
Right.
The visuals are cool, but when theaters have just the best sound, it can't be beaten.
Right.
It's just there's so much with all the streaming and everything like that. It's just not the same when you go and watch a movie in a theater versus when you're watching it at home. I've still been impressed by movies at home that I didn't get a chance to see in theaters, but they have to still be, they're saying something, or they've got like a particular message. They're trying to convey like a feeling, or they're trying to make you feel, they're trying to make you they're getting you uncomfortable in a way. Like I watched Saltburn. I watched it literally yesterday after the storms passed by.
Saltburn is is that the TV show?
No, it's a movie.
Oh, which one is that one?
So it's about this guy named Oliver who befriends, he's a new student at Oxford University. He befriends a super wealthy family, and he gets into their household, and he's just the poor sort of guy. He's very thankful for everything. He's like walking on eggshells the whole time he's there.
No spoiler alert in case.
No spoilers, because I want everyone to like watch it, because I was told a bunch about it, and from filmmaker friends who were saying like it's amazing, but I didn't get a chance to see it because movies, they don't play in theaters as long anymore. There's something new coming out, and there's also all the competition of streaming.
Is this the one with the guy from Euphoria?
Yes.
Jacob from Euphoria.
Yeah, Jacob Elordi from Euphoria.
Yeah. Okay. I think I've seen it.
He's the son of the rich
family.
Gotcha. And the the house that they live in is called Saltburn. I was
Gotcha.
wondering what actually Saltburn referred to, but it's like the
estate.
this castle that they live in.
Gotcha.
And it's fantastic in the movie.
I don't know why I thought it was a series. So it is a movie.
It is a movie.
Okay, I'm gonna watch it.
But the shots in general, the way the director and everything work together is that it's not just showing this house. Like at times it's just this really beautiful big house, but other times the way you're looking at it, you feel like an insect in this house, and the way the staff and everything work together, like anything that's damaged in the house is basically fixed the next day. It doesn't even feel like a house. It feels like an imaginary place. It feels like a wonderland in a way because of how much money, because of what money can buy there, like how much it can fix, how much it can just change. It feels like it's like a bit of a nightmare, a little bit of hell. It's just fantastic.
I'm gonna have to watch it. How do you, outside of film, what do you like to do?
During COVID, I picked up running. I couldn't stay inside anymore. I was
Cabin fever.
Yeah, I was getting cabin fever. I've never really been a super athletic person growing up. I played some sports in grade school and high school, but I didn't keep up with athletics or anything during college years. I maybe did some pickup games of basketball. There was one pickup game with basketball that I messed up my knee badly. That it's still to this day where I worry about it. It's like the good knee versus the not so good knee. Oh my goodness. So I was like, I really won't pick up stuff because too heavy, just gave myself all sorts of crap for being, not really athletically inclined. But during COVID, I said, I can't stay inside anymore. I need to do something outside. The streets are empty. I'll pick up running. Mm-hmm. I'll give it a shot. And every other time I tried to pick up running beforehand, I did some running where I went too hard, too fast, and I winded myself, or I developed like a bad cough afterward. So for anybody who's trying to get into running and you're having the thing of like, I've hit this and this, I feel that because it sucks. It's such a weird process for your body that's not used to it to try to get conditioned to it. It's terrible.
You just got to get through it.
Yeah. It's literal torture when you're not used to it and you have to do it. Or when you tell yourself you have to do it.
Yeah, right.
Because that process of like your body learning how to use that energy and run for long distances. Because I run for long distances now. I did a half marathon in March, and then at the end of March, I did the Crescent City 10K.
Yeah.
So that was weird because I was telling everyone, I was like, yeah, the 10K is not going to be that bad. Like, because I was actually working on a short film later that afternoon. So when my friend had hit me up saying, you want to work on this? I said, the Crescent City 10Ks that morning is the call time. Like, I don't want to show up late.
Right.
But I'm like, I've already spent the money and I'm not canceling this. Like, I won't do that. He's like, no, we'll do it in the afternoon. So I was like, yeah, I mean, I'll be done with the 10K in like an hour. So it's like, it starts at 8, give it a few minutes for the different sections to go. I'll be like, it's done in an hour. And I finished in 58:13, which is not world record, nowhere near world record. My God, some of those people are insane. But I was proud of it.
And I mean, that's what matters though, right?
Yeah.
From your influence, and my wife started running too. So she's doing, so our plan is to run the Crescent City Classic next year.
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing that. We're going to be joining you guys for the Crescent City Classic.
I'm going to dust you.
I have no doubts.
Listen, you got a full year of training, but so do I.
I have no doubts. I have the running I do. I play football, soccer.
Yeah. But that's great cardio.
I know, but it's a different kind of running too. So it's a much more organized in the sense of
it's a short. It's like it's random short bursts because you have to go and run. It's like saying it's like frisbee in a way. Like when someone throws you a frisbee and it's like not coming at you and you have to like sprint to catch it.
Exactly.
That's what soccer's like. But it's also the field. You're imagining how many times you run from one side to the other.
They have a metric, like whenever you watch professional soccer players, they have a metric at the end of the game how far these players run, and players run on average 7 to 12 miles.
Yeah, I can believe it.
Like running up and down the field, especially if you're not subbed off for whatever reason, and you play the entire game. Players are running 7 to 12 miles. But I'm not playing on a full field, to be fair. I'm playing smaller fields, smaller groups of teams. but I do track it, and I run about whenever on a full game. I run about a mile and a half, maybe 2 miles.
Yeah.
I'm content with that. I'll take that.
I'm on Nike Run Club on my phone, so I use that for every time I go running. It keeps a measurement on how many miles I've run in a certain pair of shoes. So I'm not like wondering, hey, are these shoes going bad? I can look and say I've run this many miles. If I've tracked everything, it gives me pace. It gives me my distance. It reads me off. Like when I've passed a mile or a half mile, if I've set it up to notify me, it tells me. And then I also keep a little, like a chest band with a little heart monitor right here. It's by a company called MyZone.
Okay.
I still don't really know if the calories are technically correct, because it's all about like, you know, you put in your height and your weight and your age and it's calculating. And I think to be fair, it's still a better metric than anything else. But I love to have that on and just to get an idea. Cause like today with running the 3.5 miles with my friend, it says about like 600 calories and it's keeping track. The thing that I think it actually is more accurate about is it's telling you like your heart rate percentage, because you wear it for like 1 or 2 workouts and it gets a base idea of like what your heart looks like when you're at like resting pace. So at a moment like this, maybe I'm using like 40% of my heart.
Right.
But when I start running, it could be much higher.
Did you ever like try to correlate it with like your watch? Do you have like one of those smart watches?
I know what you're talking about. I don't have that, but since it's connected to my phone, the MyZone thing is connected to my phone. I can like look at it there.
Gotcha.
Because I want to run fast, but there's also that certain zone of like, if your heart rate's going too fast, you're more likely burning off. You're not really you're not really hitting your fat the same way that you would be hitting if you just ran a little bit slower and a little bit longer.
Right.
But there are certain benefits to just, you know, taking off and like getting your stamina up a little bit.
Yeah. What's the longest? Have you done a full marathon before?
No, I want to do that. I want to do that next year, but that's, I don't want to look like this by that time by the full marathon. I'd want to be much lighter, because about the last 2 miles of the half marathon, my not so good knee was giving me problems. It was like getting stiff. I was still trying to keep up, but I had to walk at a certain point. And I told myself I didn't want to walk at any point during it, but I had to, because it was getting stiff. I had to give it a moment to try to catch up and like grab a water, grab a snack, keep walking the whole time, never stop. But if I had to do another 13 miles, I don't think I would have finished. I couldn't have finished.
Just because of like you had reached that point of attrition with your knee anyway. At least the not good knee, the bad knee.
Yeah, and the way I see it is I want to do more strength training in the gym, squats, banded movements with my legs to strengthen these knees and to strengthen like the joints and the like ACLs and everything.
Stretching.
The ACLs, like there's multiple. You know what I mean? The tendons, the joints. I want these legs to be stronger. Because running already has my legs looking really defined, but it's hell on your ankle and your knees. Right. So you have to take that time. I'm not even trying to run every day. I just try to run on the days with my friend, and I need to go to the gym during that, but I also need to be working on just losing a little bit of weight and take some of the weight off my stomach, off my chest, so that it's not on my knee anymore.
Right.
Because I can fly pretty good. I'd love to get to like an 8.5 minute mile and maybe even less than 8 minute. But right now it's like fastest is maybe 9 minutes.
That's still pretty good.
And I was running that pace by the end of the 10K. You don't run as fast at the beginning because you're still kind of warming into it. Right. Plus there's all the people around you. You have to like weave in and out of people. But once we were on like Esplanade, once I saw that you could like hop onto the little trolley path, the little streetcar path, I was like, we're doing that. And plus it's softer ground. It's like dirt. You just have to watch a couple of routes so you don't trip yourself.
Right. Ice cream. We were talking about that briefly. Right. Tell me what's going on with you and ice cream.
Listen, when you're not working in film and you have the main thing that I've been doing is working on the podcast and everything like that, I start looking up stuff on how to make certain things at home. Like, it's like, I want some Chinese food, but why can't I learn to make this sauce? Why can't I make sesame chicken at home? Do I have to buy everything packaging, or do I have to go and spend money at a restaurant and spend more than I'm really comfortable doing right now?
Right.
So I'm like, how much of this can I really learn to make? And one of the things that I started looking at was homemade ice cream, because my friend's ex-girlfriend, whenever they were dating, whenever I'd go and visit, they'd have like chocolate and vanilla. And I was like, this is amazing. I was like, why'd you put it in these tubs? And it's like, oh, it's homemade. And I'm like, how'd you do this? So I asked her questions about that. Like, I saw what sort of device she was using, and I found out there's a bunch of stuff you can buy for homemade ice cream. I was like, I'll give it a shot. I want to try some. And then, as I said, ex-girlfriend now, I was like, not my ex-girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend. But I was like, well, I'm not gonna depend on, I want to learn how to make some, I'm like, whatever, I can make it. So I'm just like, I looked up a bunch of recipes on how to do different types of ice cream. How simple of a process, how simple of a process it is, but how like just taking the extra time. And I like to cook in general. I like when I know a certain recipe inside and out. Later today, I'll be making risotto. I know that recipe like the back of my hand. I know what I'm missing at the home right now that I need to pick up after we're done here. So I'll be making that, and just ice cream in general is just fun.
How long does the process take? And what does it take to make your own ice cream at home?
There are simpler ways to make it, but the way that I've been doing it, after watching a few videos, and I really like making it custard style.
What does that mean?
So it's equal parts. The custard that I make, at least, is equal parts milk and some sort of cream. So you can use like whole milk. I like to use a combination of whole milk and evaporated milk. Okay. And then strictly like heavy cream. Okay. So you put that on the stove, you melt it. Those are already melted, but you melt sugar inside of the cream mixture. Yeah. You don't get it boiling because you don't want to like burn anything. Okay. There's still all those solid pieces that are in the heavy whipping cream. Right. So you're just like stirring it. You're getting it to maybe like 170 degrees at the most. Separately, you take some egg yolks, about 5 to 6 egg yolks, put it into a bowl, add a little bit of sugar in there. You take some of the cream that you've been steaming, you add it into the eggs, and you temper the eggs. So you're making sure that like the hot cream goes in there and it doesn't just turn it into scrambled eggs. You whisk it around, make it into like this nice homogeneous mixture of cream and eggs. Then you dump that back into the stove. You dump that back onto the stove in the main pot, and you add your flavors, like your vanilla, or maybe you're doing like a banana ice cream. So you add like extract of banana, maybe some food coloring, and you're just making sure that you get to that right temperature. I like to add a little cornstarch to my mixture. It's a thickening agent. So some people I've even heard you can do like flour. I haven't tried that. I like the cornstarch stuff. You just mix that up with a little bit of cold milk and some water. You throw that in there, let it simmer a little bit longer. When you're stirring it, you just see how thick of a substance it gets. And take it off the stove, let it cool. Maybe throw the pot itself. I'm using the stainless steel pot. Throw that into an ice bath, whisk it around, and once the temperature of that thing starts dropping down to like lower than room temperature, it gets really thick, and you smell the ice cream, like you smell like what you traditionally you smell it, you see it. If you taste some of it, like if you take a spoonful of it, you're like, all it needs is some air and some freezing. And so you let it cool down. I like to put it in the fridge, and then your ice cream maker is, when it's ready to go, you just pour the stuff in there, and that's it.
So the ice cream maker is a thing. There's
more expensive ones that are built with like compressors in them, so you can just do that'd be for like more of like a business. And even ones that are even like bigger than that. But that one has like a built-in compressor, so it just drops the temperature already, and you can use it just over and over and over again. The one I have it's just like a bucket. You keep it in the freezer. It needs to have frozen for at least like 24 to 36 hours, and it's cold. You put it into this machine. You put this stir in there, top it. You put the cream in there. It holds about 2 quarts, so it's like a half gallon. And it just turns. It takes maybe 20, 30 minutes. The air and everything in there starts to mix up, and the freezing process, because it's not just freezing it as it's turning, it's uniformly like freezing it in different sections. Right. So once it's done, it comes out soft serve. It's not full ice cream at that point. You put it into a container, you throw the container in the freezer, just leave it there for a little bit. Once you take it out of the machine or leave it in the machine, I made my own like homemade cherry Garcia, which is like my favorite Ben and Jerry's flavor. But I'm just thinking to myself, I don't really want to spend $7 on a pint. I can make myself like a half gallon of it, and I can make it with fewer ingredients. I don't really know what all these other,
that's a good point,
these other additives are. I'm not saying those are like toxic or anything like that. I don't believe I don't believe that those are dangerous in any way. It's just, I think there's a bit more sugar that's involved in these companies and the way they have to make their stuff because it has to be shipped around. It has to not melt.
Sugar and preservative.
Yeah, sugar and preservative. So making it at home where I can literally take it out of the machine, put it into containers, put it in the freezer. Doesn't have to go anywhere. Doesn't have to travel far. It has a more like, it's, you could almost do like a taste. I could bring in one of, and I'm not saying that theirs is good, but like you could look at it and be like, you could kind of take a Pepsi challenge with it and be like, this is pretty good.
And then no one, for the most part, wouldn't be able to determine the difference at least.
I'd say flavor wise, there's like a slight difference in them. And then the other thing is like the chocolate pieces that I put in there are not like uniformly cut. There'd be like a difference in the look, but they seem very similar.
What do you have a flavor that's your go-to flavor? What's your favorite ice cream flavor that you've made and one that you haven't made yet?
I'm going to be making a pistachio one. I like to play poker on Mondays with a couple of friends.
Yeah.
And I've been telling everybody that I'm going to make some homemade ice cream. We'll bring it in. We'll have it as I also like to make banana bread every now and then.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I sometimes just bring that thing because it's hosted at his place. He's already being generous enough to have the poker at his place. He normally has a few beers or whatever. So I'm like, I'll just bring something fun like ice cream or bread. So I told him I was going to do like pistachio for the next one.
That's awesome.
I skipped this poker night because whenever this episode comes out, this past Monday was the eclipse. So I was up in Arkansas watching the eclipse with family, and just it's wild. I forget how rare that is.
Every 30 years it comes around.
Because it happened a few years ago, but when it went through like St. Louis, and I have family in St. Louis, so my dad and my mom were up there. They had witnessed it, and I was like, oh, it's not that big a deal. Now that I've seen it, I'm like, it's amazing. I'm like, you have to see. It's so wild. It's so weird. There's so many opportunities. It happens only so many times. So like, especially filmmakers, they want to get some really amazing footage of it.
Were you able to get some?
I didn't do anything footage wise. I just wanted to witness it. The next time I do it, if I'm still here 2045, I don't see why not. Then I'll film it there. But I knew there were a few people in like New Orleans that were trying to film it. I feel bad for them because one, it wasn't going to be a full eclipse.
Right.
And two, it was cloudy on that Monday. So no one really got to see anything as it is, that's disappointing.
I've wanted to ask you this. So you're the guy behind the camera.
Yeah.
And I kind of indirectly asked you with regards to if you wanted to be like a director or anything like that. And especially now that, you've kind of clarified the difference between filmmaking and content creation. Mm-hmm. Would you ever do your own content creation? And what would that look like if yes?
I'd say yes. I don't know what the content creation would be other than I don't really feel like I'd want to do a channel about like filmmaking or about like video making. And it wouldn't be a cooking channel either because I only know I'm still learning from other people and like still having that like kind of amazement phase where everything's like everything new, like something's difficult and it's like, all right, well, we get to try this out. Content creation, okay, if it had to be anything, it'd have to be something funny. Cause I feel like I love to watch comedy. I have a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
And there's like a couple ideas with like friends that have like talked to me before where they like pitch something like that, like how to make this one dish but make it like super cheap, like go to the dollar store and buy all the stuff there. And I'm like, that sounds disgusting and fun. We should film that. And that's one video that I have lined up with a friend. We just got to wait for the time. It has to be, the stars have to align right now.
So it'll be something comedic, but still be within the frame of the things that you enjoy. So in this particular case, that would be making something like a meal, which is something you enjoy doing anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
You in our hidden episode, which may not ever see the light of day. I would like to actually listen to it. Here's just a funny thing is that someone that I know that I've worked with in he lives in Mississippi, he lives in Hattiesburg. Yeah. He recently he posted a video from his like Ring doorbell of him picking up an opossum and putting it in front of the thing. But it blew like 30 million views. Wow.
I'm not even lying. I'll send it to you later. But it's such a funny video. But the thing is, when I watch it, I'm like, it's funny because it's him.
Right.
He's not doing something that he's not comfortable doing. He didn't plan this out. He just did this, and he's a super naturally funny guy.
Right.
So it's like this one video that he made, when he's got other videos. This was on his TikTok, so he's got a bunch of other videos that have a certain number of views, but then you just have this one video that's just like amazing. Like it's so like it's fantastic.
Send it to me.
I will send it to you.
We should we can release that episode. I remember that conversation was a really, really cool conversation. The one we were talking about Disney and a whole bunch of stuff.
We talked about favorite movies. We talked a little bit about filmmaking a little bit.
We did.
We might actually be going over similar territory.
We should release it. It's audio only, that one, because that one we're just trying. It was our mic test essentially.
Yeah. No reason not to do it.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll do it as a freebie on a random Tuesday or something like that.
Yeah, you can mark that down, and there's a big bonus.
Yeah. Bonus for the fanhood. It might be a what do you call it? Like a little lanyard? Is that what
absolutely.
A lanyard to this episode
for the dedicated viewers.
For the dedicated videos, we'll do that.
But the thing is, the reason that to me that video got so popular is because it was him.
Right.
So anything that you do when you're content creating, it has to be a reflection of you in a certain way.
That's a great point.
You can't really. I don't think you can fake. You can't be in front of the. Yeah, you can't really fake your authenticity too much without people eventually realizing it, and they're gonna. It's not gonna be relatable anymore.
Yeah, no amount of like.
Or you're gonna get burned out, and you're just not gonna.
That's true.
Want to do it anymore.
That's true. Yeah, there's no amount of lights or editing that can kind of mask that kind of thing, because it has to, for you to actually have the passion and the what's the word, longevity?
Longevity.
Longevity.
I was skip. We've got it.
For you to have that, like, you have to have some sort of, a part of you has to actually be kind of intertwined with it for it to kind of be a lot more natural. And I think that's really what makes things like that become popular and viral, is when there's a hint of naturalness to it, if you will. Yeah.
Something that when something's a little bit too staged, then, or if it's trying to pass as real, but it's clearly staged, it makes you just want to turn it off immediately. And I don't know. I don't mind staged things if because movies are almost entirely staged.
Right.
But
it has to be stated
but it's telling a story and it's telling something interesting. But when something tries to when something internet content wise tries to pass as real, but it's clearly staged, there's something, it's very disconnected. It's like if artificial intelligence made it in a way.
What are you hoping for our project? The Last Zebra. What are your hopes?
Reach 100 episodes.
Yeah.
Which it literally is just a matter of time.
That's right.
The most recent episode is kind of blowing up. It's like our metrics right now are, in the hundreds, and getting the subscribers up and doing still getting working on developing shorts, just getting the content out there. Because so I'm not actually opposed to, obviously I'm not opposed to doing content, especially for this.
Right.
I don't know, just to hear from people that this becomes part of their weekly rotation, or even if they can't keep up with it, they save a bunch of the episodes, they download them, and they're going to listen to them later. Because I have a number of podcasts where I've done that where I went back and I listened to the early days of their podcast when they were really low budget, just two hosts, just talking to each other and doing and just having the best time. Short episodes. So it was just putting them on repeat. And I was doing everything else besides just watching stuff. I was just actively listening, and I was playing a video game, or I was running, or I was doing anything.
Our plan is to have you as a guest every 20 to 25 episodes,
which will be almost 6 months, a half a year.
Exactly.
So that's a real good metric for where's the show been in that time.
And it will also be our way of catching up, and talking about whatever has happened, however many, hopefully by the time we have your next episode, we're talking about my preparation for my marathon. Well, not my marathon, my 10K.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
so, but one thing that I won't be doing is, as far as I don't see myself ever getting a host a mixer mic or something like that, and like chiming into conversations, because I really love the dynamic when it's just you and the guest. Or if we get another microphone, it's because we're gonna expand this to
Another
over
guest.
here and have like, you know, husband and wife, 2 friends, and I'll have just another audio track.
Right. That would be fun too.
Gotta do it.
You could probably keep it with the same 2 cameras and just, I guess, to widen the shot. Would that work?
Yeah, change the lens, reframe a little bit.
Yeah.
The other thing maybe one day is that we can get music in here, like not just for the edit, but like the mixer can take an audio input from some sort of instrument, preferably like a guitar, and we could get some live music on here. Something like that would be sick. Something like that.
Again, like with expanding the guest pool, which we're going to be doing now, we're going to expand the guest pool to being beyond medicine. Of course, primarily medicine, but every once in a while, if someone just really cool comes across, I mean, we got to get him on.
If I have friends visiting me from like Los Angeles or something, I'd cinephile. You have them come in and talk to you about something, whether they're in films or one of my friends works at like the Academy Museum. So she goes to the Oscars.
That'd be awesome.
She has to arrange, she has to talk, she has to have emails with all sorts of directors and actors and producers. So she'd be a good guest if you want to talk about movies.
Absolutely. I can't wait. Absolutely. Well, I would say, Matt, we'll see you around.
You will see me around. You'll see me every day.
We'll quite literally see you around for every episode.
It's a fact that we probably talk to each other every day, maybe every 2 days.
Yeah. We always like catch up, getting the schedules, getting the people in.
Yeah, checking on you when it was like raining. Like, is the studio's okay? The rain's not too bad over here. Like over here, and you were like, no, everything's good.
Yeah. And part of the reason the way the studio is built, because of that reason, before we actually did the renovations for this space, it used to get flooded in here.
Oh, that'd be rough.
Yeah. So we raised the floor to kind of, mitigate that. So thankfully. And when you messaged, because remember I was telling you, I was just waking up. Because we just had for context, we just had the heavy rains yesterday here in New Orleans. And so when you messaged me, I had just woken up because I was on call. And like I literally ran outside and I came in here and I was like, oh yeah, it's perfect. Because this has been the first real test for that since we actually did the renovations. We haven't had that degree of rain. Our AC broke.
Yeah, wait, did you just lose power or the AC broke?
For the main house, we got a water board.
Oh wow.
So we have to get, so the AC person that came to look at AC for here came and addressed the thing. So we gotta get that sorted out. Anyway,
that was one thing that was annoying about. I started talking to you about it earlier when at my place the lights flickered on, flickered off. Yeah. At a certain point they turned off, and I was like, it's fine. The rain's still going. I'm just gonna go back to sleep. It's like 8:00. There's nothing to do. I won't be editing right now because we have no power.
Yeah.
So that was peaceful until my smoke alarm started to go off for no reason. 2 of them started to synchronize, and they were saying there was a carbon monoxide. And so I was like trying to like reset them, and then they started saying fire. So I had to just pull the batteries out of them. So I was like, okay, I can relax now. So I got back in bed, tried to relax again, and then that's when the phone was going off saying tornado. It was like tornado. It was like thunderstorm warning.
Yeah.
But I'm like, is there a tornado or not? If it's a thunderstorm, I can't really do anything. I mean, if there's a tornado, I can't really do anything. I can go into my kitchen and hide under my table. I don't have any center aisles.
Right.
Like I don't have a central space. I'm pretty screwed no matter where I go in my apartment.
It's the wild thing about here in New Orleans is that and I wasn't aware of this. So I've been here since 2005.
Yeah.
Tornadoes are a relatively recent thing in my memory. I feel like prior to the last 5 years, I never thought about tornadoes for New Orleans. And that might be just false memory.
It's not a false memory. It's one, the weather is changing a little bit. I'm not a meteorologist. I don't know what, but there's Tornado Alley, which is more west of here into like Texas and Oklahoma and the Great Plains and like the Midwest. But we are in a specific area called Dixie Alley, which is a different area for tornadoes. The tornadoes are different.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's why, I mean, God, what year was that? Tuscaloosa, Alabama got hit by a really bad like EF4, EF5 tornado. And it's not designated in Tornado Alley. Tornadoes can happen anywhere in the world. If the conditions are right, they can happen.
Right.
They're still very rare. I was fascinated by tornadoes growing up. So I love to watch like Discovery Channel things, like Discovery Channel documentaries or just anything or Weather Channel when they would like interview people that got hit by a bad storm.
Yeah.
And one thing they never really talk about in these programs, to my memory, is that it's a very unlikely chance that you'll ever actually get hit by a tornado. You might see a tornado one day. I mean, especially if you're trying to like chase it, which is a terrible idea. Don't ever do that.
Don't do that.
But as far as like a tornado developing in an area, the conditions have to be very specific, because sometimes it can just be strong winds and not be a tornado.
Right.
But tornado, you're not likely to get hit by a tornado. We're more likely to get hit by hurricanes around here.
Definitely.
Yeah, like the hurricane is so much larger. It can hit in such a different way, like depending on what side of the tornado, which is weird to say when it's technically like a circular thing, but like depending on like the east, west, whatever part of it, like that makes a big difference as far as like the damage it can cause. But tornadoes are so very specific, and that needs the right conditions to do all that.
And I think of them as more of like scalpels.
Yeah.
And because they're much more precise.
Yeah.
And finite, like, they last, a few hours kind of thing. Whereas
most of them last only a few minutes.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Most tornadoes are very they're violent, short. One that goes, I mean, like if a tornado goes for hours, like if it's just one tornado, that can tear through states at a speed, because it's not following highway rules and it's not following stop signs. It just goes in one direction.
Right.
So like
That's a great point,
almost 100 years ago, whenever the tri-state tornado went through like Indiana, Illinois, and Iowa, someone correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but that one was like a 2.5 hour tornado where it just kept going.
Wow.
It just kept going in a straight line. Might have disappeared for a minute, but then it came back. So it was considered the same tornado. But like a tornado, that's what's crazy about tornadoes, is that they can be so short, but they can be really damaging. Your house could get hit, but your neighbor could be almost untouched.
Right. Because they're so precise.
The only thing you can predict about tornadoes is that if there is one in like a busy like city area, someone's going to get footage of it. Everyone's got a camera. Someone's going to be the brave soul to do it. And not it's get away. Wild. And everyone's like, you shouldn't have been inside, or you should have been inside. But it's like, you're watching the footage. Like you feel that way in a way, because it's like, why wouldn't you want to get it does, like I'm saying, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen very often. So you're not really believing it when it's happening.
Right. And because it comes and goes so quickly, someone might say, yeah, there was a tornado here. And like you said, you can just be like, what proof do you have? Well, I have the footage.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm okay not seeing one. I'm okay with that. Because seeing one means that you're close to one.
Yeah.
And I'm okay not seeing one in person.
And if for some reason if you do see one and it's not moving, that means it's moving towards you, which is really scary.
I feel like I've read that somewhere in one of those kids' books back in the day. If a tornado is still,
it's coming right at you.
Right at you. So like get out.
Yeah.
And those things are fast too. Like they are booking it across the land.
Imagine like going interstate speeds.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's pretty much how fast they're moving.
Exactly. Wow. See, we talk about everything on The Last Zebra.
Yeah, we do.
Well, Matt, as always,
there's a medical angle to that. Don't be injured by a tornado. That's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
That's my medical
That's
advice.
Your medical advice. As always, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll catch you in the next one for sure.
Absolutely.
Somewhere in the background.
Got it.
All right, y'all.
All right. Thank you for having me on.
That was good.
Hey, doctor, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. We got the new Rodecaster Pro 2 set up here, and we're just doing a little test recording. I played some music going into it, so I'm going to send that to a friend, and he'll have to listen to it. Just, we're doing this right now because I really wanted to test this out.
Uh-huh.
And also, I think I wanted to ask you a few questions.
Sure. What you got?
How many years has it been that you've had this idea for a podcast?
Honestly, it's been probably since I first learned about podcasts. I was like, that would be really cool. And it always felt very far away, like a distant reach or something. But I would say probably since, my residency years. So that's about 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Yeah, I've really, really wanted to do it. And I have so many quirky videos of me holding up my iPhone, trying to talk through it, trying to see what I would sound like on a podcast. Yeah. And I've never actually liked my voice in terms of hearing myself. And I've never enjoyed that. And I think that, along with a certain element of being afraid of what people might think of me, although I understood that I was never going to say anything ridiculous, but I was just kind of like stage fright, and that's kind of what dragged it on until now. The whole purpose of this space was for this.
Yeah,
this was an empty shell until about 2 months ago.
And since we don't have cameras set up right now, what the space he's talking about is this annex, this guest bedroom at the back of his house. It's a perfect space. It's a perfect studio space for stuff like this.
Yeah.
For podcasting. I'm going to say that hearing my own voice is kind of a fear of my own as well. Like the way we speak in real life and how we hear it.
Yeah.
Versus when we're recorded, we're electronic, and suddenly we're listening to it later. I absolutely can't stand hearing my own voice later. It's terrible.
I feel the same. I feel like mine sounds very like I don't even know where to describe the anatomy of where it sounds like it's coming from. And that like drives me insane. Like when I hear my voice, I'm just like, oh my goodness, is that how people, but people hear you differently. It's kind of the same thing about how people see you. Like you see yourself very different from what people see you as.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's an ego thing, but I think you look better in most people's eyes than you think you look when you look at yourself in the mirror. I don't know if that makes sense. And people with the supremest of confidence look better in their eyes than how people see them. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I know what you mean. There was some sort of like Snapchat, or maybe it was just some sort of filter where it's like you would take a video of yourself and it would be like, this is what people see you as when they first meet you. Mm-hmm. And it would like compress your mouth or widen it or like push your eyes really close together.
Oh, snap.
So you looked very animalistic at first in this, like with this filter. I've never used it. I don't really like mess with filters and stuff like that on those things, but just seeing that it's like, it's kind of weird for an app to say, this is what other people see you as. Like, this is what you look like in someone else's perspective.
Right. So, I mean, yeah. And I think speaking about visualization, I always wanted it to be a visual medium as well, mm-hmm. in terms of just audio for a podcast. I have no good reason for why I wanted that other than just to make it much more dimensional. And it's one thing to see the person that's talking. It's another thing to, like, for instance, in that first episode, one of the really good feedbacks that I've gotten was people enjoyed seeing our faces when one of us said something, or, that interaction. It makes it a lot more natural. It doesn't feel forced. At least you can see that. You can see that the conversation isn't scripted.
Oh yeah, no, it completely like draws you in, and
exactly.
You feel like you don't feel like a peeping Tom, but you feel like a part of the conversation.
Exactly.
Like you're in it.
Exactly. I think what I need to do now is, once we did that first one, which shout out to you. First of all, how we met is one of the.
So I do freelance videography I love to do film work, but film work in New Orleans it's popular, and it's a good industry down here. But between the Writers Guild of America strike and the SAG strike as well, we have quite a few months where we're not going to be doing stuff, just in terms of like crew work. But that's not really all that crazy to me, because there were times when I was not doing work before I was in the industry, like when I was still like trying to get into it. So it was all about like, look for video opportunities, look for anything, try to learn something new in this space. And also shout out to all the friends that have referred me for work, and I've done the same for them. But I got hooked up with a company up in Chicago, I believe, is where they're based. But they basically like outsource video needs, and they'll hire me for maybe like a 4 or 6 hour video shoot. And I'm normally used to like 8 to 12 hour days on set, which that's how much time you need when you're working with a full crew. And there's a lot of complicated setups, even simple setups, but just for perfect lighting, for camera movements, and just for acting, rehearsal, all that stuff, you need that kind of time. But for these things where it's just, we're shooting like natural B-roll, we're doing, just someone walking down the hallway. I'm pretty good at directing people and just saying like, we're just shooting something natural. We're not doing anything crazy. We're not doing a whole lot of lighting setup. But it was one of the shoots that I was on where I went down to Terrebonne General Hospital, and that's where I met you.
Right.
Where you were with 2 of the nurses and y'all were doing shots for us, just some like slow motion walking down the hallway, something that they're going to use and put some voiceover.
Have you seen that ad?
No, but every time I send the footage, I always make sure to tell them like, hey, I'm very confident with what I shot. They give me the specs of what they need, like 4K, 30 frames, slow motion in 60. And I ask them, hey, just send me a copy of it whenever it's edited. I'd love to know. I want to have notes. Like if the editors are like, why did he do this? Versus like if they want to see something new. But truthfully is that they're very willing to work with you on what you know how to shoot. And since I've sent them a reel before, they know what I can do. So the thing is that I'm always trying to expand what I can do and do more creative stuff.
Right.
But with 4 to 6 hours, depending, and especially with doctors, you're not the first doctor I've shot for.
Nice.
Especially like surgeries. I've had to film for like orthopedic specialists who have very crazy schedules. And I'm trying to fit in an interview or like a quick video shoot with them while they're in between surgeries.
Wow.
So they're coming out of like some sort of rebuilding of someone's shoulder. They're scrubbing up, they're washing down, and they're, coming out. They have to come and like do stuff with us. And we're just there with a camera and just like, hey, Easter's in a week. What are we? So in this shot, you got to chase the Easter bunny. The Easter bunny is loose in the office somewhere, and you got to go like tackle him or something like that. And you got to like, he's not supposed to be here. He wasn't buzzed in or something like that. Right. Crazy, like silly concepts like that.
Right.
But
that's pretty cool.
But that's how you and I got linked up with that. And you were immediately talking about how you had this podcast idea. I'm breaking down equipment. I'm like, give me your number. Let's talk about this. Yeah. So I thought you were living in Homa, which is where Terrebonne General Hospital is, but you're in New Orleans.
You're right.
And so am I.
You're right. And can you imagine my surprise? I don't know if you can remember how surprised I was when you were like, oh, I live in New Orleans too. Because I thought you lived in Homa. I thought like that you were a local videographer. Is that a good title?
Oh, absolutely. For what I was doing on that, that's straight down the line videography.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I thought that's exactly what I thought. And in my mind, I was like, I need a videographer, without ever truly understanding what that meant, other than it had the word video and grapher in it. And I was just like, I want someone that does videos and whatever that comes with. So imagine my surprise when you're like, oh, because you don't live far from here either. You live about like 15 minutes.
No, I live over in the Lakeview area. So
exactly.
I'm just right up the road.
Exactly.
Really. Just canal basically connects us.
Yeah.
And I just hop on the interstate. And
yeah. And I was so pleasantly surprised. It felt like Providence. I'm big on Providence.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I am huge on Providence. Because just when I started, this space literally just got finished. And I think within a week's time is how I met you.
This is how recent this has been?
Yeah, this literally just got finished in the last 2 months since I've met you.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you've decorated it. We don't have video, but you've got paintings all around. You've got pictures. You've got decorative art. You've hung up some blackout curtains.
Yeah.
So that on the day we're going to be able to have control of lighting. We're going to be able to really treat this like a proper podcast studio space. And
that's reflective of your experience, right? So like you noted that the previous curtains we have, which are right there, didn't really, at least didn't match with the lighting. I don't know what that means, but I just...
It just has to do with like ambient light, like wherever the sun is positioned, it's going to be hitting the objects, houses, mirrors, windows, whatever, and it's going to start bouncing light into the space.
Got you. And it makes it less controlled.
Yeah, we just can't really control it because suddenly you could be way brighter than the person who's sitting across from you. But on the day we're going to have, it's going to be way more controlled. And now that we've got this set up, this is going to be almost a permanent fixture here,
right? With
very small, just adjustments depending on what we need for a recording on the day.
Nice. Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward. I'm really excited. This is the most excited I've felt about any project other than NOLA, which I'm gonna show you in a bit. But I am really, really excited.
And what's great about this setup too is that I'm looking down at these controls right now, and it's very interesting because once I'm gonna take this audio and send it to my friend, the same one who basically recovered our audio from the first episode, because we didn't have this set up at the time, and that was a bit of a bummer. But we had something in its place that we were going to experiment with and try on the day.
Right.
But unfortunately, we found out that the microphones that we had were not the right things to use.
Right.
We were using these two, not to disparage the company or anything like that. They're made for these other microphones that you plug into a computer, and we were going to record into Audition.
Yeah.
But we found out that you can't plug in two of the same microphones into the computer. It only recognizes one at a time. So that became kind of a non-starter for that recording. So I threw two wireless lavalier mics, and we recorded the episode, but I was very skeptical about the quality of the audio. The video looked good, but the audio, I had questions about, like, I don't think we can actually use this in its current state. So I sent the raw audio off to my friend Andrew DeRitter. So shout out to him, DeRitter Productions in Lafayette, Louisiana.
He lives in Lafayette?
He lives in Lafayette. He works a lot in New Orleans too. He's got a lot of family that lives down here, and he's from New Orleans as well.
Shout out to Andrew. My wife's from New Iberia, not too far from Lafayette.
Oh yeah, the Berry.
The Berry. I can't believe you just said that. That's exactly what she would say.
Everybody talks about the Berry.
Yeah, the Berry, man. The Berry, baby. She's really from Jinneret, but her family lives in New Iberia. So we're literally in that area. So Lafayette, New Iberia, once a month at least.
It's a nice, small, quiet community.
Whenever
it gets reported in the news, but it's never good. What they report on, like human meat found in like frozen in an Arby's. That's a real article. You can look that up.
The baby, you know about the baby in the garbage can?
Oh God. I don't want to know.
It's so bad.
Oh no.
I agree. It's always the most egregious. Oh man. I know about 4 just like ID, you know that TV channel ID that does murder mysteries? Yeah. I know about 4 stories that should be on, if it's not already on the mystery channel ID. Oh my goodness, crime channel. It's just like, what is going on over there? It's either normal or out the world crazy.
Who am I thinking of? Is the guy Joe Kenda, the detective? I think that's his name, Joe Kenda, on ID TV. It's always stories about. It's like he's solved every case ever. Apparently,
I believe it.
And they're all horrifying. They were a normal family until they weren't.
That's how all those stories start.
Absolutely.
Oh man, but yeah, you're saying about Andrew.
I sent him the audio. I sent him the full podcast episode, the full recorded episode with video, the intro added into it. I was like, hey, give me. I'd been telling him about it, and his first thing was saying, don't do a podcast. It's impossible. And I'm like, first off, nothing's impossible.
Right.
Everything that we do starts out small, and you build up from there. But we're like, what can we do with this audio? Like, is anything recoverable in that? And he says, give me like a day, and then he sends it back to me, and it's all been normalized, leveled. One of the things he did was that he took out basically the channel where you were speaking and then the channel where your guest was speaking. He like removed your audio from his thing, from his channel, and then he removed his audio from your channel so that he could then master them. And then, so there wasn't like this like strange echo happening.
Right. This kind of does that automatically, I'm assuming.
Yeah, basically like.
Because how it sounds in the headphones is how it's going to sound on the output.
Yeah, with like very minor like tweaking and mastering and all that. But it sounds, it's more like this is like what is going to come, unless I throw in some robot effects real quick. Let me try something. Unless I pitch up a little bit, something like this.
You can hear it.
I can hear it. And then if we did something like a monster sound effect like this, something like that.
How do you know the names already? You just remembered it from before.
They've got the actually it's not affecting my it's not affecting my microphone. It's only doing it in yours when you talk. So I just need it, which is not a problem. I'll figure out where it's gonna, how like which ones, like which effects like.
Right.
yeah, which effects like go into which microphones.
Do you think it's left right for which microphone?
It's not really a left right. It's more of a you're channel 1, I'm channel 2, and then there's 2 more ports right here. These 2
Right, 3
XLR
and
ports,
4.
which that can be used for like an instrument. Like if your neighbor comes out and brings her guitar, and we have a way for her to play, we can record into that.
Nice.
In fact, through that is where we can do the. Actually, let me try this real quick. When I do, if I select this, does this do the effect? I'm not. Wait. Oh, yes, I'm hearing it. I'm hearing it.
There you
Okay,
go.
I'm hearing it now. That's
And can
pretty
you do
cool.
it for both of them at the same time?
I'm hearing it in yours right now.
Okay.
If you had a pair of headphones on, you would
I
hear
would hear
it.
it, yeah.
I think the reason I can't hear it right now in my own ears is because technically I can. The sound of my voice is traveling through my body, so I'm hearing that at the same time as my
Gotcha.
this is coming through.
Gotcha. That's awesome. I'm excited for
This piece of Roadcaster.
It's gonna be very, very cool.
And I'm sure it's one of those things. Like I remember when I first got it, it kind of is more than I expected. Yeah. Just visually, it's a lot more than I expected because I hadn't turned it on at all prior to. I just opened it up. So I was like, oh my goodness, this looks really, really, really cool. So I'm really excited for to kind of exploring all of the magic that it can unfold for us.
Oh no, this little baby is gonna be a game changer for us. And what's great is that I'm pretty good at picking up like electronics and just figuring out it's not like I'm gonna pick it up and it automatically breaks.
Right.
Like I'm good with like finagling stuff and anything can be learned on YouTube. Literally anything.
Yeah.
So if anyone's like not that YouTube should replace traditional school, but it's definitely like it's got to be like a sidecar, like a partner to it in a way.
I agree wholeheartedly. I use YouTube for medical school and for residency and for fellowship. I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't feel like Google as a company hasn't brought me to where I am today.
I think overall it's been like when you're looking for the correct things, when you're looking for the correct information and you're not looking for things that are not going to help you. Like if you're looking for actual factual, like accurate information, you can find it there. As long as you know how to weed out the bullshit and stuff. Foolishness and all that.
And usually the people that take the time to make videos for the most part, and I'm talking about YouTube specifically, that take the time to make these videos tend to be a little bit more professional in terms of at least experience. Now the output, the visuals aren't always the best, but that's not what you're going there for. You're going there for the actual raw information in a format that's easy to digest. And I love it. I use YouTube every day.
There's sometimes when I'm looking for information though, just like there was one time when I was looking up, I just wanted to know how to change one of my cameras into like so I can take like 20 pictures at a time.
Yeah.
And when I find one video and it's like 1 minute long and immediately it's like, hello and welcome to this video today. And then it starts going through like the setup of the camera. I'm like, dude, I just need, it should be 5 seconds. Just literally show me what I need. Like make sure there's a battery in the, I'm like, you don't have to, you got to move past that stuff. Like I promise, I know that that's not where I'm messing up. I just need to know what the shortcut. And once it told me how to do it, I was like, click out of the video. I'm done.
But it's funny because especially for a question like that, you think the creator would know that question is so specific that whoever is asking this is beyond the basics.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
But how do you decide? I mean, anyway, you got to make the video long enough, I guess. Fill it with fluff.
Something with YouTube is about like the 10-minute mark where it's like that's how they like that helps with the algorithm or like for ad buys and stuff like that if a video's over 10 minutes, but like a shorter video of like 1 minute or something like that isn't
quite as valuable.
It's not useful for advertising. They can't really put one in there for that. I wouldn't know any. I've honestly had YouTube Premium for a while. Once you go like without ads on something, it's very hard.
It's hard to go back.
It's hard to go back.
Yeah. I have a YouTube Premium account like with family, you know, you have that family premium account.
Yeah.
So I have it with one of my cousins. I do agree. And especially if you have kids, the YouTube premium account is A1. Especially if you want them to watch something. If they're watching something educational, Miss Rachel is excellent.
I have a question for you about kids and technology, iPads and all that stuff. What is your feeling on kids with iPads? Do you think it's become a crutch? Also, do your kids even know what commercials are, like traditional commercials?
They have no concept of it. So my kids don't watch any sort of electronic anything during the week.
Wow.
So like none at all. So if the TV is on, it's because we're watching the game. So myself, if I'm watching a game or something like that. So tonight is Thursday night football. So if we weren't doing this, that's what I'd be doing. But it's already 8:00. I already put them to bed. So a lot of times when the TV is on, the kids are not around the TV. My daughter had a 6-month period where she felt like she was watching, at least we felt like she was watching too much. And we noticed how taking it away from her was like a withdrawal.
Yeah.
And so my daughter is my oldest kid, and that experience taught us, at this age, they latch on so quickly to something that addictive. And it's not addictive to adults, but to kids, all these colors, all the funny voicing, the way they talk, they don't know how to step away from that. So my daughter was in that phase. So now they don't watch any TV at all, Monday to Friday. Saturday, she has a limited, because my son doesn't care. He's a year. If you sit him in front of any sort of TV, phone, anything, a minute in, he's like, I'm out of here. He gets, that doesn't, at least, but I don't know if that's more due to his age, and in part because he came around the time after we had already established our no screen during the week policy. So now he's not that interested in TVs at all. But my daughter is definitely, now she still asks for it now. Now she knows on Saturday, she's like, oh yeah, today's my day. So she'll watch like a movie, whatever movie that came out recently. She's on the Little Mermaid kick, so she's been watching that a lot.
The new one?
The new one. So we already went through, the other thing is part of my screen time strategy is to let her watch or have her watch things that I enjoyed growing up too. So we've gone through all of our Disney classics. So we went through all of those.
What was a personal favorite of yours growing up?
Take a guess.
I mean, Lion King, obviously.
It's easy. It's easy.
I shouldn't say what was your number 2 if that was.
That is a more interesting question. Lion King is the easy, lazy. Sure, I'm from Nigeria. It's Africa, it's the savannas. I used to tell people that was the story. That was my story, but of course it's not. Second favorite.
I hope your uncle hasn't killed your dad.
That would be okay. It's definitely not my story.
Okay, good.
But my life has nowhere been as traumatic as Simba's, or the Pride Line. Second favorite. I would have to say, second favorite is Aladdin.
Aladdin is a good one. Aladdin is amazing.
Aladdin is amazing. How about this? How about you? Top 2, and I'll give you another one. What is an underrated Disney movie? Like, what is a Disney movie that you don't feel people talk about enough, but really deserves to be spoken about a lot more?
Okay, so if we're gonna go with like classic Disney animated, like whether it was Walt Disney, like Jungle Book was like the last one he made before he died. That's an amazing one. I probably grew up and watched that one the most. I'm gonna probably call that one my number 2.
Okay.
The songs in that one are amazing. The underrated one is, I think, Robin Hood.
Ooh.
That one gets not memed, but like people still do like the whistling from the beginning. Like they'll use that. It's a perfectly it's an amazing, like, just something to like to put into a video, and it's just like it's a perfect, like, it's a happy-go-lucky tune whistling and just has a great, just a melody to it. But when it comes to number 1, that's a really hard one. Beauty and the Beast, probably. Yeah.
It's funny because they're all classics, really, right? So and everyone, it's one of those things that I don't think there's a wrong answer to anyone's number 1. Like if someone said Tarzan, I understand it. Tarzan has some of the best collection of music.
Oh, easily.
Man, Beauty and the Beast is really, really, really good. I think if there is some of the ones that we were just talking about this with my brother about the Hunchback of Notre Dame. You remember that one?
Yeah, I saw that one.
And how a lot of these movies have very serious adult themes. So, for instance, The Hunchback, we're talking about how he was really stalking her. And we're talking about why didn't he get the girl as opposed to the because in the Shrek ideology is that he gets the girl, like how Shrek got Fiona.
Yeah.
But the Hunchback was like, nah, there's no way he can get Esmeralda. I think that's her name.
It is Esmeralda.
Yeah, there's no way. I forget his name now, the Hunchback's name, but there's no way he gets Esmeralda.
It's Quasimodo.
Quasimodo. And the Cardinal was downright evil.
Yeah, Count Frollo is. What all those movies have in common is they always had the best villain songs, the best villain songs as well.
Scar has an amazing one. Jafar has a menacing one.
Yeah.
What's his name? Count.
Count Frollo has like the darkest one.
The darkest
it has
one.
such religious and it
Undertones.
has the religious overtones and just the use of like Gregorian chant and like call and it's amazing.
Yes.
But the only thing that brings those movies down a little bit is that they still have that kid angle. Like they bring in really serious stuff, but then the humor of it can be just a little bit too childish.
Yes.
Like the only animated movie I've seen where it's like it has a little bit of humor, but it doesn't actually take away or rely on it being childish is Prince of Egypt, which was DreamWorks.
Which is Let My People Go.
Yeah.
That is flawless. That's a flawless movie.
We did talk about we were talking about like Disney underrated, but that one overall culturally is still underrated because DreamWorks they're not making traditional cartoon animated movies like that anymore, and that was like their last really truly amazing one.
Prince of Egypt, I saw that in theaters when it came out.
Oh yeah.
Prince of Egypt is flawless. I mean, it's absolutely flawless. There's nothing wrong with that movie. Nothing. I think as it's definitely, I would make the argument, the best, because what would you classify that kind of animation? Because it's not anime. So like there are different types of animation. So it's not anime.
It's Western. It's Western animation. It's American Western animation, but it's so grand in its style and its cinematography. It like has a real like cinematic eye that I don't think has really been matched.
And of course, the story is a very well-known story, but they told it in such a colorful way, in such a new, unique way. I mean, everything felt real. It was. The relationship between Moses and Pharaoh was,
it's way more interesting. Their relationship in that one is more interesting than it was in like the 10 Commandments. If you've ever seen that one.
Yeah. Wow. Yes. Wow. That's a callback.
In that one, like the Pharaoh is just straight up evil.
Yeah.
But in Prince of Egypt, he's much more of like he just wants to live up to what his dad.
Right.
But he's destined not to be that.
Right.
It's his dad put too much pressure on him, or he never was going to live up to that.
Right. You can tell that he was torn. He was certainly torn, and he genuinely, truly loved Moses, and you can tell that. Like the angle of brothers that are fighting on opposite sides. I'm actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I've never thought about this before. Is Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
So like towards the end, how they became these opposite sides of the same coin, but what drives Anakin's hate is how much he loves. I think is how much he loved Obi-Wan, and what drives Obi-Wan away from all of it all. The Jedi way is how much he loved Anakin. So that juxtaposition of between the two of them is the same that I see between, of course, not to at that degree, but it's the same I see between Moses and Pharaoh. Both torn apart, really, but a part of the reason they were so antagonistic was because they cared about each other so much. You would probably make the argument that Moses was just like, I'm just following God. But I think the way the Prince of Egypt presented it, he was still very much attached to his brother, the Pharaoh. I feel like maybe I'm overanalyzing it.
Oh no, I don't think so at all. I think there was a degree of like he wanted to resolve it peacefully.
Yes.
Much sometimes when you walk into a situation, you know that there's only going to be the one way it's actually going to proceed.
Right.
But you always offer that more peaceful solution or that more compromise, and you just try to like do something out of love, but you know that that's not gonna work.
Right. And that's definitely what Moses did.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know if that peaceful as many opportunities that he gave. His name was Ramses, wasn't it?
Ramses.
As many opportunities as he gave Ramses. I don't know if he would have given it to anybody else if it wasn't for that relationship in The Prince of Egypt, based off of that story by itself. Damn, that's a good callback. I love that movie. I might watch it again this weekend.
Have your kids ever seen it?
I don't think I have.
That's a good one. That's definitely a good one to. But between the music and the humor and just the animation, it is perfect.
Yeah, it's completely flawless. If you look at it in isolation as just a movie, so soundtrack, cinematography, story, execution, whatever else you take into account for any regular movie, it meets all of those to me at an A or A+ rating.
I agree.
Yeah, flawless movie, flawless.
It's just weird how some things get not lost in time. There are people who still know about that movie and will like. And I mean, we're talking about it right now, but something like what we just brought up, Shrek, is like, especially it's like for a lot of people my age, there's like Shrek raves. It's constantly memed or talked about, or just it's part of the zeitgeist in a way.
Yeah.
But like something like Prince of Egypt, which is a very like strong emotional movie, doesn't get. I guess it doesn't really lend itself to that kind of thing. You can't really you wouldn't have a rave about that sort of thing.
No.
But no one ever thought that like, a movie like Shrek would have raves and stuff like that.
The impact that it did. Yeah. I mean, in terms of quality, Prince of Egypt is better than Shrek. Respectfully. But, Shrek did what it had to do. It did really good. I don't know if I like. Again, this is another conversation I had with my brother, where Quasimodo and Esmeralda was concerned, was the message that was sent about Fiona becoming. But I need to watch it again to make sure I'm stating this correctly. So Fiona became an ogre for Shrek, right?
Right. That was her curse.
Yes.
Every night she turns into an ogre.
Yeah. And did she choose to? Because she chose to become an ogre permanently, did she not?
Yeah, it was like a true love's first kiss. But whoever like she kissed, that would be like what she turns into.
And she chose Shrek.
She chose Shrek.
Yeah, and
so you're saying they kind of like they in a way corrected something that like Hunchback couldn't do.
Right. Hunchback could never do. Because so now I don't think they will be able to make in today's world, in 2023, I don't see how you make a live action of Hunchback without completely changing that movie, the original movie.
Oh yeah.
It's not possible. Not with society as it is now. Like I was joking that there's no way you'd actually have a Hunchback. It would be it'd be something else. I mean, and it's in real life, some of those themes, those darker themes, will be so magnified that it might not be a children's movie. It's
still the Hunchback story itself would still lend itself, I think, to good like a modern day retelling, because it has a lot of fear, like xenophobia is one of the themes in the movie.
Absolutely.
Like religious zealotry, any of that. It can still apply.
Still pertinent.
It's still pertinent 30 years later. But yeah, like I don't think that if he doesn't get the girl at the end, or if he doesn't like, I don't know. I don't know how. I'm not sure how they would be able to adapt that exactly without like
altering it some way.
Yeah, they'd have to change something about it. Or that other character just wouldn't exist. Like
the guy,
the one that she actually gets with at the then the other thing would be like the gargoyles. As much as like a funny character that they are, the last time I ended up rewatching that movie, I thought for a second that maybe the gargoyles were just a figment of his imagination, because he's always up there by himself, that he has these friends that he talks to, but they're not actually real. But they contribute in the action sequences. Like they hit people.
That's true.
Like they're alive. So
That's
it's
true.
like there's all this real stuff happening, and then there's the gargoyles who are also alive. I just thought they were a figment of his imagination. I thought it was like, oh, that's a lot more. It's something that he's had to do to keep from going crazy. He has these imaginary friends, and why not the gargoyles? But they're actually like alive.
Right.
So it's like this weird sort of tone shift of like, what's the reality of his situation?
Right. going back to what you were saying about how the shifts with comedy and realism and darkness can be jarring sometimes with those kind of movies.
And a lot of that is just studio mandated. Like they say, we need that. Like the creators have one vision in mind, but when they start, like when they go down that road and they're starting to make it, and they get like studio notes, because you don't just make the whole movie and then show it to the studio.
Oh,
You're there in the development process almost all the way, because they want to know where their money's going, and they want certain things that they know. It's like, well, this previous movie, Little Mermaid, had success with this and funny characters and jokes and maybe someone with a funny accent.
Right. Why not just do that?
And they're going to say, we'll add certain things in here like this.
Ah, I didn't know they were inputting all the way through.
You never really know what fully they input or not.
That's fair.
There's NDAs. There's all sorts of stuff. Like not every idea is just contributed to one single person, especially if it's a bad idea. Then no one ever seems to take the blame for those.
Right.
But yeah, like studios and everything they'll have these things, like the fact that it's a musical, the fact that it's got all these, like the trademarks of it, like the trademarks of the Disney style in a way. When some of those things don't need to be, they're not applicable to every single movie that they make.
Right.
They've always had great music. I think
true.
every Disney movie that's come out has always had pretty good music. I've only seen Princess and the Frog once, and that was after living in Louisiana for quite a few years.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. My daughter watched that a bunch. She has all the princess dresses.
Oh yeah.
She'll wake up and just put them on. So just now, and I'm not making this up. I just put her down and I told her good night, Bijou. That's my daughter's name, Bijou. And she says, no, I'm Tiana. That's what she said. I was like, okay, good night, Tiana. But I like the Princess and the Frog. It has some really good songs in there too. But which Disney movie doesn't have good songs? What's a bad Disney movie that doesn't have, in terms of those animated movies? I can't think of any that doesn't have at least one memorable song.
I can think of a few that just don't have songs in them. Like Atlantis doesn't have songs in
That's
it.
true.
So, but you can't say that has bad songs just because it's lacking. I don't remember if Black Cauldron had. That's a really like kind of that one's a really underrated. But that one kind of like flew under
the radar.
Yeah, that one's like more or less before like the Disney Renaissance. Like that sort of helped catapult the Disney Renaissance and why they needed to like bring those movies back and have the music and have everything and like the musical numbers and the funny characters and everything like that.
Black Cauldron. That's a callback too.
That's a real big callback.
It's a deep callback. We watched. Is Anastasia Disney?
I think that one's DreamWorks as well.
And that was a good one too.
It's been a long time since I've seen that one.
I really enjoyed that one. We just watched it like last week, a couple of times. I don't know how we got to it. We were watching that, but my wife and I, we like when the kids go to bed, we just turn into kids ourselves. Just put on a nice little cartoon movie and watch it. Yeah, man. Kids make you kids again. I think everyone should have kids when they get the chance. It's a way to relive your childhood sometimes. That's basically all I do is just have them watch the stuff I enjoyed, at least growing up.
It's kind of a litmus test in a way of like, all right, do my kids have good taste or are they?
Well, I heard someone say the whole point, I'm sure they're being facetious and definitely stretching this out more than it needs to be, but the whole point of kids is to make people you'd enjoy hanging out with. So, and I sort of buy into that. Like you just want your kids to be someone that you want to like your kids, So like when they get older, you can hang out with your kids in a normal way. It doesn't have to be weird. It doesn't have to be pretentious. It doesn't have to be forced. Probably that's the most important thing. It doesn't feel forced. Like you guys are they're just naturally decent people that you like being around. And I feel I really take that to heart. I want my kids to be, well-functioning folks, well-rounded, people that can, that I enjoy being around. And I don't know if that's selfish, but I'm going to be in their life, hopefully, God willing.
Conversation I had with someone recently, they were talking about how they're not like a huge fan of kids, but they love their own kids. Like and I'm like, well, why wouldn't, hopefully you would. they're half you.
Right. Right.
Like, of course you're gonna like the ones that you have.
Right.
Like,
Right. At least you should raise them to continue to be ones you like, because you like them from the jump, and when their personality starts to flesh out, you're like, I don't like that, I don't like this, and hopefully you kind of like steer them in such a way that there's a lot more that you like about their personality than don't like.
I imagine it's a lot of trial and error.
Oh, 100%. I'm not the dad I thought I would be. I really thought I'd be. I'm a lot stricter than I thought I would be. I don't know how it happened. It just became a thing where I'm definitely, my dad personality is a few degrees stricter than my real personality. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I get you.
I'm definitely a lot harder on my kids than I ever thought I would be, and I don't know where it came from.
Well, there's no one in your life besides your kids that are going to act like kids.
Right.
They're kind of the outliers in a way because their personalities aren't fully formed yet, and what they need to know about the world.
Yeah.
Like the way you act with kids is not going to be the way you're going to act with
Anybody
your coworkers.
else. Right.
Because they've already been raised, they've already made
Right.
decisions about life or how, and they know how they are, and they know who they are,
Mm-hmm.
and how to act and how to be more, in a teamwork, like a group setting.
That's true.
Kids
That's
are just
true.
like this raw, like material.
You just have to keep working at it.
Exactly.
Keep working at it. They're pretty awesome though. My daughter just had her birthday party last weekend. Oh man, we've never thrown her a birthday party, and it was annoying. It was a nuisance to set up and to take down. But man, you should see her. She was so happy for like the silliest little things. And I think always in retrospect, it's worth it. But in the moment, oh man, I was like, why are we doing this again?
It's
Yeah.
amazing when I find out from parents how much they throw away their kids' stuff. Like if it's like random homework that they've finished and it's already been graded, they can't keep everything that kids bring home.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just as soon as the kids have their backs turned, it's like it's in the trash. Like the memorable things like certain drawings or whatever that are going to go up on the fridge. Those things, that really is a place of honor is on the fridge with that magnet attaching it there.
Yes.
But there's so much other stuff where it's like, if the kid finds it in the trash, it's like, what's this doing in here, Mom? It's like, oh, I just must have fallen in there. And Mom's like, I definitely threw that away. It's mountains of crap that kids will bring home from work, or not from work, from school, their schoolwork, or just from friends or whatever. It's like, it can't all stay in a house. It's gonna look like you're hoarding.
Absolutely. There's this product that I see on social media where it's like picture frames designed for those things, the things that kids draw. Mm-hmm. And whenever your kid gives it to you, it's like a lock. You open it, it's like a frame. You open it and put the new picture up and close it, and that new picture stays up.
Wow.
And so you keep putting stuff in there, but my counter to that is you're never ever going to look back and say, I mean, unless you do, which is awesome, but at some point you can't close it and you can be like, all right, let's just toss this and start over again. I don't know how long do you store it for. And I think about even clothes, like if you go through your wardrobe once a year and throw away what you haven't worn that year, you find that you probably wear the same, I don't know, set of shirts, the same set of pants, and nothing of the rest.
For a single guy about to turn 30 at the end of this year, I can admit that I own way too much stuff, especially clothing. And there's only so much of it that I wear.
Right.
And I just haven't gone through and like really donated stuff, because whenever I was packing up from my apartment in Lafayette to move to New Orleans, I had to get a moving company to help me because I had too much stuff. Like everything came with me. There were very few items that I left behind, like trash, washer and dryer, clothes, TV, everything. This gigantic table that these two brothers who lived next to us in this townhouse that I was moving into in Lafayette, they were moving out. They left the table and they asked us, hey, do you want this gigantic like Game of Thrones looking table? And I was like, we don't have a table. So yeah. And I moved that thing in there by myself. It was it's the heaviest table. It is
You
ridiculous.
still have it?
Oh, I still have it. like when I saw the place I was going to move into in New Orleans, I was like, it needs a table. So I had told myself the table's going to stay. It did not stay. It came with me. I had fully intended to leave it for the next the tenant or whatever, put it out on the street. It would not get damaged. Someone would pick it up. But when I hired 2 men in a truck, everything came. In fact, when I saw how big their truck was, I left my apartment so that they could keep wrapping up furniture and all that. Right. I went to the office where I was storing all my film equipment. Yeah. And I grabbed everything, put it into my car, and drove back over. And I was like, here's some extra stuff that I want to put in there. And they filled up everything.
And by the way, how's that moving? First of all, I need to see this table. That's number one. Number two, you have to keep that table from now on. I mean, barring a partner that says absolutely not. By the way, this table right here is a remnant of my previous bachelor life. I'm pretty sure my wife hates it, but I love it.
It's got a use right now.
It's perfect right now.
It's supporting the 2 arms and the boom mics and us.
I know. And I could have been like, see, now I wish you could see it. I'd be like, you see, if we threw it away, we wouldn't have any table for my podcast. But anyway, so, and then my third question was 2 men in a truck, right? Mm-hmm. Moving. I subscribe to the idea that if you've ever moved with movers, it's hard to go back.
With the level of stuff that I have, unless I'm willing to sell off 50% of my possessions that I don't need.
It's not possible.
It's not possible. I still have a couple boxes that are filled with like cups and everything. And I'm like, why do I have so many cups from like Dickie's barbecue place? I'm like, it's 'cause whenever we had gone out to eat and they give you the cup, and it's like you took it, and I'm like, we never should have collected all these. Right. I've got like a million movie theater cups that have like Avengers or It or whatever. I don't need those. I need so little of what I actually have, but I don't have the time to like, one, the weather is terrible. It's way too hot outside, but I need to have like a garage, like a small estate sale, and just get rid of a bunch of these things, like sell them for nothing or just throw them out.
Wait, so are you originally from Lafayette?
I'm originally from Arkansas in the Little Rock area.
Oh.
So I grew up there, went to school there, went to high school, and then when it came time to pick to college, I was like, I'm going to get out of the state. I want to move away, and I want to be kind of on my own. I want to just experience that life. So I honestly didn't do too much research. I kind of looked at a few schools. I did a few tours, Texas, Oklahoma, I think one in Kansas. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be in like a surrounding state. But then I came down to UL Lafayette, and just the personality of the people that were like giving us the tour and the impromptu tour that they actually gave me. I came down for like computer science. I wanted to do video game design. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I think I found my school. It's a smaller school. It's not super expensive. I have good grades. I've got a decent ACT score. Mm-hmm. I think I can, and I nailed some like small scholarships. Yeah. So that most of my schooling was paid for by those scholarships. And as time goes on and tuition increases, right. Luckily, the scholarships keep up with it. So like the small the whatever, maybe the 70-30 split of like scholarships to what my parents actually paid. Mm-hmm. I didn't actually accrue any school debt. Nice. Thankfully.
That's clutch.
So I think there were certain like maybe things I missed out on high school as far as like hanging out with like a lot of people because I was so focused on schoolwork and that I just really wanted to have scholarships and I wanted to move out of the state. Right. And now when I go back and visit, I'm like, Little Rock has come a long way. They've been developing a lot of stuff. It's a very nice area. I always liked it when I was growing up, but I've realized it's been developing and there's a lot of natural beauty to it. So I enjoy going back, but I can't be back for too long. I do enjoy being down here. I enjoy being, all my friends are down here. Like the life I've made down here is one that I enjoy.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, that's pretty cool. I don't think I would have pegged you for, I mean, I guess it would have been difficult anyway. I'm not really great with American accents, but do you have a Arkansas accent, whatever that means?
I mean, you can be a little bit more Southern if you want, but it's just, it's a bit of education, really. It's just I went to private Catholic schools for all my life. So just, I don't know, even this feels like a bit of a put on, really. That's not really how I talk.
Yeah, right. That's hilarious.
Plus, I always loved like imitating movies that I saw, Shrek accents and all that. And when you realize that like any way that you talk is just an accent, maybe in a way that you're putting it on. So whatever this sort of neutral, whatever voice this is, I don't really.
It shouldn't be discernible.
I don't really consider it like Arkansas or whatever. It's just just from parents and how they raised me.
So when did you move to New Orleans?
I moved to New Orleans back in May.
Oh, you just moved to New Orleans.
I just moved, and it was Tuesday, May 16th that I was down here. That's when the truck landed, and that's when I landed, and also that's when I apparently got one of those like traffic camera tickets because I was speeding to my house because I wanted to beat the truck there, and it must have been like school zone time or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Even though they were like, I was like, I need to get to my house before they landed. And I was there way before they were. But like it was a Tuesday I moved in, and then that Friday I was in Jackson, Mississippi working on a movie. I came back on Saturday to work a wedding because I had already had that on the schedule.
So you were busy. That was a busy ass week.
That was a super busy week with like moving down. I originally had the idea that I was going to move to New Orleans at the end of June when I came back from the movie, but something about me just said I need to go now before the summer gets any hotter. Like I need to talk to my landlord and just get this thing figured out because I'd already found the place. I was already like had the paperwork in front of me. I just hadn't signed it or like sent in the pet deposit, the deposit itself.
Yeah.
It's a scary thing to move when you're just like by yourself into an industry I was doing fine and I was doing great in Lafayette as far as like film work and everything like that. But I wanted
up
it
there. Well, it's not up there. Lafayette is actually in the same latitude as New Orleans.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So what we say up there,
like a pinch north,
right,
and not so close to the ocean. It's still more of a coastal town.
Right.
Like you don't have to drive. It's like 40 minutes south and you're at the ocean.
Exactly.
Or just the bayou.
Right.
But yeah, it was just like a big thing at the time. And whenever I was actually like preparing the move that like last week, like before my move out date on Tuesday was like, I was like packing up everything all at once, like developing a game plan, going to Walmart and buying boxes. And then I realized I don't have enough boxes. Like I kept making more trips over there and I wouldn't just buy, I don't know why I didn't just buy too many boxes, but I kept buying not enough.
And that's a frustrating
So I kept having to go back and buy more stuff. And like, I'm like, how much of this should I throw away or how much should I just pack everything up and go down there? I never would have actually been able to make it on time if two of my friends, Brad and Rachel, hadn't come over and basically like, I was trying to give them some of my food that I didn't want to take with me. And they saw how much I had left to do. And so they went back to their apartment. They changed clothes and then they came back to help me.
Oh man.
So I stayed up super late that night. Just like, I probably was up to like 3 a.m.
So this was Monday night.
This was Monday night. Going into Tuesday morning, I was up till probably 3 a.m. just packing up stuff and like just trying to get some sleep. Wake up. I need to go to Walmart again to buy some more tape and pack up the last few. But I was exhausted. And then
you drove down?
Yeah. And then I waited there for them and they got there on time in the morning. It was like a 9 a.m. start and they got there. I just like stayed out of the way and let them pack everything. I wrangled my cats into their boxes. And then I grabbed all my film equipment. And then when I was driving down, that's when my landlord tells me that the AC cut out that day.
AC here?
Yeah, at my new apartment. So like the whole load-in process was going to really be a pain. So that's just the way it is.
Welcome to New Orleans. What a way to welcome yourself to New Orleans. But you've been to New Orleans before, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'd visited the place several times. I've been here for many months, actually, just between like all the days that I've had to come down for a film project, TV, whatever. And I've stayed with my friend who was living in Metairie at the time.
Gotcha.
So he would let me crash on his couch as much as I wanted. I could text him on like a 2 hours notice. It takes 2 hours to drive there.
Right.
But I could be like, hey, can I crash on your couch? And be like, absolutely, come on down. If you get here in time, we'll eat dinner together. I'm like, all right, I've got a bag packed right now.
Nice. That's dope. So you were still doing essentially film work in Lafayette for the vast majority of your time prior to this year?
Yeah, and the thing was, I was just coming down to New Orleans a lot. Some of the best work that I was getting was in New Orleans. So sometimes they would say, "Oh, we'll pay your mileage. We know that you're from 2 hours away.
Yeah.
So it's nothing for us to pay for your mileage." And then some other gigs were saying, "We can only pay the day rate. We can't do the mileage." And I would say, "Well, the rate that y'all are offering is more than it's the type of work I want to do." But I was getting tired of just driving all the time.
Yeah. Wow. Is your when things are in season? I imagine film work has seasons. I don't know if that's a fair.
It does. Yeah, they do have seasons.
So when things are in season, do you feel that, like, at what point did you feel like this is exactly what I want to do? Or do you have that feeling whenever you're in that zone where you're busy with film work or whatever, you're like, this is what I want to do?
If I can look at my calendar and think and see how many days I have lined up for stuff, I've felt that way for a while. The fact that I don't have to take on a 9-to-5 job, except unless it's like video work, like if it's like editing something.
Right.
And I have like, I've been contracted for a couple editing days where it's like they rate them as 8-hour days on an hourly rate.
Yeah.
But I haven't done a full, like an hourly job, like a minimum wage job for so long. Cause I don't really know what my skills as a filmmaker can translate to in terms of like regular work. I don't even remember what the last place I worked at before I really like transitioned into like full freelance. I think it was, honestly, I don't think I've ever had like a full-time job.
Not even like in college? You were always doing like freelance
I was
stuff?
always doing like, it was only like part-time work. If I got 40 hours, it was maybe by accident. But like I worked at an Applebee's. I did pizza delivery. I loved that one. That was just honestly chill, just listening to the radio or listening to podcasts, comedy, whatever, and just delivering pizzas around Lafayette. I then was working, I did some video internship stuff for a company in Lafayette, learned a lot from them. Then that time eventually expired. Then it was like doing another job in pizza work. I was living in Crowley for a couple years after I graduated school. I was living with two of my friends that were, I was living with two of my friends that were dating at the time out in the house. And that was good for me because it was really cheap rent. So, and that was a good time for me to start looking at video opportunities. So I was taking on whatever I could, and I was getting paid like lower rates because I was like new in the industry, and there was going to be a lot of like having to teach me stuff and just like not owning equipment, not being like an owner operator, but just being a set of hands. It's different when you're just a set of hands versus when you own cameras, sound equipment, lights. Your rate goes up at that point. And a lot of these like video shoots were small. The companies in Lafayette were also small, and they were like developing in a way. And then as the years went on, the rates started to get more competitive with just bigger stuff going on. Lafayette has a lot of creative people, like camera people, grips. It's close enough to New Orleans that a lot of the people that I know that work in the industry, they'll come down to New Orleans a lot, or they know enough people, with New Orleans being like a hub in a way. And the fact that they have the phone numbers and they've worked with these people. So cities like Lafayette isn't too far to call for someone
to come down
or to even have movies made in Lafayette. I've worked on a few movies in Lafayette, and I've known, and the people that I know who are also in like living in Lafayette or in the smaller surrounding cities to that would come on and work on the movies as well.
That's pretty cool.
That's very cool.
That's really cool. Yeah.
In fact, we're in September right now.
Yeah.
There was a trailer for a movie that I worked on in Lafayette that we worked on last year from April to May. It was right around the time of like middle of our shoot was like Jazz Fest.
Okay.
So that movie I think is actually coming out, if it's not already out, but it's called 57 Seconds. It's got Morgan Freeman and Josh Hutcherson. That was in Lafayette. That was like a 14-day shoot, which it was either 14 days, which is a really fast.
Short. I was about to say, yeah.
That's a really quick time. Maybe it was 18 days. It was either 14 or 18.
Still short.
It escapes me for right now. But that's like 18 days. I know that for certain. So that means that was like 3 full weeks and then 3 more days after. And it was just like quick. It was it was a very quick shoot.
Are you there the whole time?
I was there for every day of that one.
Wow.
That was when you're on a movie set like that, that is more of like your Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 in a way, but it's more like a 7 to 7. Or if they're shooting overnight stuff, it's a 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then you get Saturday and Sunday off.
So you get most Saturdays and Sundays off.
Most of the time.
Gotcha. Yeah, because all the days look the same on film.
If you jump into what's called a 6th day or a 7th day. Like if you've done 5 days of consecutive filming and then you go into like a 6th or 7th day, if this is a union film, the rates get bumped up. And while extra money is always cool, most people that I know, after 5 days of like 12 to 14 hour days, they're exhausted. They want the day off more than they want extra money.
Right.
Like it becomes a point of like, it's like biologically when I'm on set, like everyone has like the same timer in their heads of like when 12 hours is up, they start to turn into somebody else. At least for me, I physically feel it. Like after 12 hours, it's like dog years after that.
I can somehow relate in medicine. We have 12-hour shifts.
Yeah.
And it's like 7 on, 7 off, 12-hour shifts. So 7 on, 7 days straight, 7 days off, 12-hour shifts. If you work as a nurse or a respiratory therapist, those jobs are always 12 hours for the most part, unless you're doing PRN shift or something like that. But for us physicians, doctors and providers, so NPs, PAs, everybody that actually does like the providing part, that's not the nursing, etc. The 12 hours is what's necessary, but it ends up being much more than that on a day-to-day basis. I don't know if that makes sense. So like you come on at 7 and you're supposed to leave at 7. You come on at 7 a.m., you're supposed to leave at 7 p.m., but like work happens well beyond that.
Oh, absolutely.
Quite often. And by day, I agree.
The patient's illness isn't going to...
Exactly.
It doesn't end when you're getting off your shift.
Exactly. The patient's illness don't know that your 12-hour shift is coming off.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is just professional courtesy. Like if you get an admit at 6:45 and your relief it comes in at 6:50. I mean, the courteous thing to do is to just go ahead and take care of it, right? So like, and that ends up like pushing you back. But you know, if you have a good relationship with the other, like they would do the same for you on the other end, and that's good. But sometimes, you know, if they come early, and that happens quite often when someone comes, people tend to come 30 minutes before their shift starts to kind of help alleviate that kind of craziness that can happen towards the end of
overlap a little bit and catch up. Okay.
Exactly.
That is courteous. That's very good.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of ingrained into medical culture in most places, I would feel. And that's very helpful. So then, you know, y'all are both there at the same time for this period of time, and allows you to catch up, allows them to kind of build up and catch up as well, catch into the work while you catch out or phase out.
We've honestly talked about this on an industry level for film. It's like, what if they did just continuous filming? Like if they filmed, like if there was no off time, like you just rotate. What if you had 2 crews basically? There's the morning people and then there's the night shift, and you like switch out the entirety of the people that need, like everybody has to go. But like in a way, like certain actors could film during the day and then the night actors could come in and they film their scenes. Everyone's wondered about it in a way of like, because as long as the 2 crews were getting like their 12 hours, like 10 to 12 hours of rest in between their shifts, then why not do it? Then could a movie in theory be made in half the time,
right,
or less, because you're not actually you're not like keeping people on past the 10 hours or the 12 hours that you want to make the day or whatever.
And a lot of films are filmed in, and correct me if I'm wrong, are filmed in stages, like sound stages, where sunlight isn't dictating. Is that a fair?
The bigger the budget, the more likely it is filmed on a sound stage.
Gotcha.
Like you just have to imagine that everything you see has been built in some way.
Right.
I can tell you the number of movies I've worked on that weren't on sound, and it's been a lot.
That were not
sound stages, that were just like we're just rooms.
The setting. Okay. Oh, okay.
Like in Lafayette, there were no sound stage areas. I should say that there was one where one of the scenes involves like a Learjet, and on a bigger budget, they would just build the jet, not a functioning jet, obviously, but they would build a skeleton of it, and they'd have like just one side of the jet with the windows and the seats and all that, and then the camera could be, close to them.
Right.
This one we were inside of an actual Learjet, and it was tiny, Those private jets are not meant to be like, you're not meant to like get up and walk around.
Right.
So it's very small. Like but the thing is they were using like blue screen outside of the windows to simulate the flying or just, to add that in post-production.
Right.
But that was a real jet that we filmed in on that.
Wow.
So it's like the plane's supposed to be going down, so the camera's like shaking.
So is that cheaper than to just build out that jet? Like with wood or whatever?
I think maybe, but it just depends on who you're renting from, like who owns the jet. Maybe it's a favor, or maybe they just have a good rate if you're not actually flying the jet, but you're just using it as a thing. There's no drinks or there's no like damage to the jet.
Right.
How much does it cost to get like a blue screen set up and have the people there versus carpenters and set builders that you have to pay to build that sort of stuff? But when you have someone who can build a jet, you can make something. You have someone who can make a set, they can make it to your specifications and do really great work.
Right.
And they get to create, like, everything that can be handmade on a set is amazing. I don't think I've ever met anyone who does like stage building and craft work like that isn't fantastic at their job, unless they're new, in which case they still have like a passion for it, or else they wouldn't be getting into this industry. But they're all amazing in some way. It's just how much time do you give them and what kind of budget do you have?
Right.
That's like, how creative can you be?
I'd love to go to a movie set. I've never been to one. That'd be really quite the experience. Well, although in New Orleans, you walk through them every once in a while, where like a road is like this. What's the name of that movie? Not movie. It's a TV show.
Interview with the Vampire?
Yeah, it was filmed like right here.
During that time when that show was filming, there were like 3 different shows filming all around the French Quarter. There was like Queer as Folk, Interview with the Vampire, Mayfair Witches, which is also part of like the Anne Rice series. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's also part of that. It's like another AMC show where it's like,
gotcha.
They're living in that era.
Gotcha. Yeah. They were filming like literally this block right. Where am I? Right here.
Yeah.
Right here. Yeah. So in New Orleans, New Orleans is a film hub. On any given, I would say month, because that's probably how infrequent it is, but you could find yourself in a movie set just walking around the city.
Oh, you could.
Yeah.
I think it should be illegal to make them during July and August because of the heat.
I was about to say, yeah.
It's gotten cooler now. It's feeling better, and I'm still riding a bit of a high because I came back from Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Holy crap! That sort of Smoky Mountain air. It was so nice. It was like
fresh.
It was like 52 degrees at night and like 77 during the day. It was amazing. And the drone stuff that I flew around and got some shots. You just saw the mountains, and they're not gigantic mountains, but just like the hills and the mountains, like
just the terrain.
Just the terrain is beautiful, and it's just all the way back there in on the horizon. When you start like lifting off, you just see it immediately. So it's just excellent scenery.
Yeah, I love. We just came back from Nashville maybe 2 weeks ago. I went to visit my brother. He lives in Nashville.
Wow.
He lives in Clarksville. Tennessee is a beautiful state. Beautiful state. Well, really, all of those Tennessee, Georgia, some of that mountain range right there.
It's like the Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And my wife and I went to Blue Ridge last year before my son was born. Beautiful. That's
the type of that's what John Denver sings about.
Man,
it's worth to sing about it.
Oh my goodness. I mean, it really, everything is so, you feel small, but just because everything is just so grand, and the terrain is, especially coming from here, where you don't have a full idea of your scale compared to, like, say, the earth, for instance. When you're driving through the mountains, like on a road that's like kind of like snaking through the mountains, and just these gargantuan stone mountains are just overlooking with all sorts of like trees and colors, and God.
At times you're even like cutting through a rock. They've like built a small tunnel because they're like, we can't get rid of this. We're just gonna go right through it.
And you're just like, wow.
You come out the side. You come out like the exit of that, and it's just, there's signs about like, watch for gigantic falling rocks.
Yes.
And it's like, if you've ever seen one of those fall like on the road, they are terrifying.
I can imagine. I don't want to.
That technically is just a risk that you have every time you're driving, is that something could just fall. It's weird. It's in a way that's like, if that happened, and if you got hit by that, there would be no, not to be morbid, but there'd be no pain.
Oh yeah, it's instant.
It's just like
you're driving and then you're not.
Yeah.
Everything is finished.
You were in a car, now it's a pancake.
Yeah. It's done.
It's done.
It's like now this is morbid. It's like the submersible, the the Atlantic, what's the name of that company?
I know what you're talking. I don't remember the company, but like I don't know, Sony submarines is using a video game controller.
Use the PlayStation controller. Bruh.
He must have seen Men in Black 2 and he got that idea. He's like, oh yeah, no, we can just operate with a game controller.
It's just so bad. But have you seen the video of how quickly that thing collapsed?
They actually have video of it, or was it just like
a demonstration?
Yeah, like the pressure is so great. It's just like it's there and then it's not.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it. I'll check it out.
Instant. It happened quicker than our eyes, our body can detect anything. So I mean, they had no idea. Like there wasn't like a preamble to it. It just kind of just happened. Like it just collapsed into imploded into nothingness. It's crazy. But yeah. Well,
that's just sort of an interesting thing of like when you have that much money and that you try to like that's what you do for like thrills, is to go down to the bottom of the ocean and see the Titanic and basically add more bodies to it.
Yeah, it's just the ocean terrifies me more than space.
I think it's been said that like more of space has been charted in a way.
Then so 95% of the ocean is uncharted. 95% of the ocean, but we know every single crevice of the moon.
Yeah.
So we know every single crater, every single hole on the moon. On the moon,
giving them names and everything.
Mars. We know all these things. But the ocean, man, wow. I feel like in space, I think my biggest fear with space is that, or the lack of fear with space is the view. You know what I'm saying? Like if you get struck, you're going to die, sure, but the view is good. You know, you're seeing a beautiful blue pearl. That's Earth. You know.
Yeah.
In the ocean, it's just dark, and what creatures await you there? I feel like you're more likely to be in a horror movie in the ocean than you are floating out in space. Like no creature is swimming through space to come get you. At least we don't think so.
Yeah, I keep thinking about that a lot with space, is that we might be alone.
We probably are.
It feels like in a lot of ways that life itself is such kind of a miraculous thing. It takes such very specific conditions that for as far as we can maybe travel at this current stage, we're not going to find anybody.
Yeah.
And as a species, we're very hooked on the idea that like we're not alone.
Right.
I think more people want to believe in aliens than not.
I think
Extraterrestrial life.
Yeah. I think that's attached to our need to have something from above. Mm-hmm. I think as people become less religious, then ironically aliens become the overlords, people that have this. Because for aliens to be real, at least the aliens that we think about, they have to be an advanced civilization. Mm-hmm. So like they have to be, because whenever people talk about them, we never talk about aliens visiting us for the first time. It's about visiting us again. So they've been here before. So the alien conversation always comes from a visiting perspective, where when they do come, if they do come, they've come here before. It's not like they're coming and then being like, oh wow, lovely little blue planet. It's like, yeah, we did the crop circles, we helped you build pyramids, and we're just coming back to see how you guys are doing. So they would have to be an advanced civilization that can traverse the cosmos and kind of give them that. They will essentially take the place of like the way we think of God right now. Can you imagine? But can you imagine if there's an advanced civilization of aliens that shows up? How does that fit in with religion? Like that change that I mean, how? If aliens showed up today, where does Jesus fall in that? Or
was Jesus an alien?
Was Jesus? I mean,
it's kind of interesting that if aliens come in and they can like if they visit and they visit for such a short amount of time, but they can like gather up information. Like let's just say they have like a way to like take Wi-Fi signal or whatever, and they can just download all the information of like what's been happening recently, and then they take it back and they have to like read this stuff. They're like, wait a minute, who's president?
What?
Like at a certain point, they came down and visited, and they were like, no, you don't understand. The apes have evolved, and they're actually like they're like out of the food chain right now.
Right.
They've domesticated other things.
Right. Didn't see that coming.
Yeah. We thought like the big cats were gonna be like
The big ones.
that were gonna be like top dog
For a long time.
But it's like no, the apes actually they started making tools now.
Surprise, surprise.
Then they come back and they're like, no, they actually kind of crazy, but some of them went to the bottom of the ocean.
And get this.
They're not ready yet.
Let's give them another 1,000 years. I think because we're so stuck on like so much of making history happen again, what are the chances that someone then takes another device, maybe not a submersible, to go see the site of the submersible that went to see the Titanic? So and then that new device also gets like destroyed.
Part of me wants to say that if climate change is as bad as it's going to be, or if we're just going to keep having these like record heats, it's like we're going to see all that stuff because the ocean's going to dry out. It's like I know it's the bottom, but like it's hot sometimes. Like we're gonna. I give it. I want to give it like decades, but we don't really. I don't think anyone's going to wait that long.
No.
Just my only thing is just we have drones.
Why?
Send an unmanned thing down there. There's going to be something you can build something really robust and that can handle the water pressure, and just send it down there if you want to get more photos of it.
Yeah. Why send yourself? I don't understand
just be on the big ship.
Right.
Send the drone, wired it, like you can wire it, and so that you can have full control of it and just have it go down.
Do what you needed to do and call it a day.
Exactly.
But no, we have to be special. We got to see with our own two eyes. That's just so. And actually, the worst part is they actually didn't have windows, I don't think. Like it was just, they didn't have any windows on the submersible. So I'm still confused as to what they were going down there to do.
I don't know. It's not like they were going to be able to get out and
walk around and even if you use a camera and be down there, then you could have just used a camera anywhere.
Exactly.
So like if the only visualization you have was from a camera and no windows, then why did you go down there in the first place?
When James Cameron went down to the bottom of the ocean to see that thing, he like went it was like domed.
Yeah.
It was like nothing but windows, but like really thick glass.
Right.
That could handle the pressure.
Right.
But it was all for the fact that he could see. And I think it was maybe at most 2 people could fit in, and
right.
Probably only one.
And he was the only one in there.
And he was the only one.
He did, was it Challenger Deep is what he used.
Mm-hmm. I think that's correct.
James Cameron. Wild man too. Oh, well. Well, I hope whoever goes down there next does it right this time. For real. Well, this was fun.
This was fun. I'm looking forward to
just
taking some of this audio and seeing what we can do. We ended up recording. You want to take a guess how long we've been at this?
40 minutes?
An hour and 18.
An 18?
Actually, 3, 2, 1, hour 19. We've been talking for a while. This thing it's been addicting.
It's easy.
It's easy.
Talked
about a lot of stuff throughout this. Yeah, I think we're going to call it a day. So we're signing. I don't know if this is ever going to become like maybe a bonus episode or something that we can just hold on to for now, but it's a full
podcast.
There's no video. You know what? Here's what this is. We're going to bury this one for a while. You know what's funny is you didn't introduce yourself, and I didn't introduce myself either at the beginning of this episode. But you know what we'll call this? This is more like a bonus. We'll figure out a way to release this on. This can be like a hidden episode in a way of like a bonus episode of like the setup. We'll call it. This is the initial setup of what.
This is episode 0.
This is like ground zero.
This is ground zero. Episode ground zero.
Well, we're gonna call it a day on this one.
Yeah, man.
So it was good talking with you.
This was great.
We're gonna do another episode tomorrow. Looking forward to that. So Signing off.
Signing off. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of The Last Zebra. As always, we have new episodes on Monday mornings on all of your podcast platforms, and on Tuesdays, it comes out on YouTube. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the next one.